This has been a Cable 14 special presentation, a retrospective interview with Mayor Fred Eisenberger. I'm Connie Smith. I want to thank you for watching, and always, whether it's a federal, provincial, or municipal election, town hall, what have you, have a say in the kind of world you want to live in. Get the facts, educate yourself, and exercise your civic right and your duty to vote. Bye for now.
Tune in to the Hamilton Network as I bring you the people, stories, and all the experiences shaping the Hamilton area through insightful interviews and information you can use. Michael, thank you so much for being here. Off the top, all starts weekdays at 5:30 right here on Cable 14 and cable14.com.
Good morning, Brobergs.
Good morning, Brother B.
Good morning, Jan. Sometimes I wish I had the kind of marriage you have. I almost feel like we're two sides of the same family.
If you knew something, you would tell us, right?
He has all the hallmarks of a psychopathic personality.
Your husband kidnapped her.
Again!
A friend of the family. All new, Monday at 9, only on Showcase.
You can visit our website at cable14.com. Like us on Facebook at Cable14 Hamilton, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Cable14.
Oh, I hope this is it. Oh, it's gotta be. Oh my God. Hamilton, Ontario. Steve, what the? Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, welcome. Steve Wilson, Mike Relics, coming at you from Jurassic Burlington. This is not the exact forest we're used to digging in at all. Look around you. This is Jurassic Park kind of stuff. But through some research, as much time probably in research as we're gonna do digging, we have maybe found a spot. We're gonna dig, we're gonna try and get to the early 1900s. We're gonna try and do what we can do. Any coins, any relics. Do you recognize the river? I bet some of you fishermen do. Thanks for watching, Hamilton. We got a banger signal here. We both agree it is. It's a good size. We're gonna dig it up, see what kind of ride we can go on. I can't guarantee it's a coin, but I'd like to say I guarantee it's a coin. All right, you don't wanna run it? Here it is. Like, look at that. What do you think?
Looks round.
I know it looks round. That's all I can tell you. Oh, I hope this is it.
Oh.
Oh, it's gotta be. Oh my God, dude. Oh my, it's a half dime. It's a seeded half dime.
No way.
1875. Hamilton, Ontario. Steve.
Wow.
Oh my God. Look at. Oh my God, Hamilton. The second one I've ever dug. They're so rare. But look how deep we are, 4 inches deep. This is insanity. Oh my God, Steve.
Wow.
How amazing is that? That's a seeded, right? Is that what they call them?
Yeah, it's got the stars on it too.
Oh my. So this is an 1855 half dime. Wow. So the guy who dropped it was using the same method of transportation you are right now.
Join us this week for Beyond the Veil.
Come with us as we explore the different catering options for different types of weddings.
Mondays at 8:30 on Cable 14.
I felt really alone when John died, and the United Way program really, I reached out to them and they just really helped me feel less alone and helped me feel validated in my grief, which has been tremendously helpful during a time when I've never felt so alone in my life.
Get your phones out, Hamilton. Scan the QR code on your screen to take you directly to cable14.com, where you can find out about our shows, see our TV schedule, learn about our hosts, and so much more.
I'm sorry to let you know that my days of mental distress are finally over. I'm sorry to let you know that you are like a single drop in an ocean. I'm sorry to let you know that I learned to be positive. So please walk away with your negativity. See, this is my golden opportunity to show you that my dreams became finer and bigger than your smaller mini plans. Sweet 16 felt like hell because of you. 18 became my throbbing year full of fear. Yet here you were making sure I didn't enjoy my adolescent stage. You mercilessly locked my happiness in a cage. You then stabbed me with your sharp knife and cut open where it hurt most. You shamelessly took me on a long, painful drive. I was scared for my life. Cruel as you were, you forcibly opened my front door and spilled all the red paint on the floor. At the moment, I felt hopeless, helpless, with no chances of resistance. And when I thought that was over, that's when the reality of 9-month struggles checked in. For goodness sake, you handed me the responsibilities that Mama got when she was 30. See, I was still a teenager, not ready for all this. Innocent me was still craving that silver spoon. But you didn't take a moment to think of your actions, at least for once, not even for a second. All that mattered to you was your selfish agenda instead. Why did you become the heartless stranger? Why did you force me to skip the stage of young love and jump to old hate? I used to pray with Harrison, David, and Christopher, but you twisted this when you built great boundaries smeared with hateful and ugly memories. However, jokes on you, it's high time you understand that long gone are those days of miseries. And I'm so glad that the dice you rolled never landed on your expected side. I bet my story would have been differently told. FYI, I stayed put, remained calm, maintained my anger. I even became the underdog so that today you listen attentively. And just so you know, I kept quiet all along to creatively create my content. Let me remind you that I am that seed you buried. I'm that light you tried to hide. And I'm that camel in the desert you thought you dumped. Presently, I'm thrilled to inform you that those spring rains finally came, and that was a massive fallback in your game. Oh, what's that? Ooh, shame. I am remorseful to inform you that you will no longer see my tears, cause my silence bursted into beautiful melodies. I strengthened the pillars of my heart, so I don't need your console, cause I have a redefined goal. You won't ever see a gloomy face, cause I've rested my kiss. Man, it had been a while. All I wanted was this smile. Mr. Abuser, our meeting was unpleasantly hasty. I failed to understand your intentions really. Nonetheless, let me thank time for turning tables, because in the same process, I evolved stronger, wiser, and resilient. So I'm apologetic for not being what you thought I would be. I apologize for fighting and withstanding your attack. I wasn't ready to drown in the grief sea because I had a vision. Even though it was unclear then, I still believed in its future guarantee. See, I apologize for turning out to be better than what you shaped me into. I apologize for molding myself into a warrior that you never envisioned. I also apologize for being kind enough to carry this burden. I'm deeply sorry for holding back and unshakably becoming the better me that you couldn't see when you decided to ruin my future. Please allow me to take this minute and extend my gratitude to you for being the indirect stepping stone to my revival. I used to call you my rival, but hey, thanks to you for introducing me to survival. Every milestone became a lesson in which I remembered to take notes. My past sad stories are now comics. I made my best friend peace, self-confidence, self-love, and laughter, and we all excelled to a new chapter. So Mr. Abuser, you are of the past, but I'll let you know that the present holds for you the worst. Always remember that days are numbered, and when your 14th arrives, you will learn how to appreciate the season, when the walls of prison take the initiative to teach you how to reason.
The 2022 Senior of the Year Awards honor seniors who are 65 and older who have made an outstanding voluntary contribution to enrich the social, cultural, or civic life of our community. Tune in this Thursday at 7 on Cable 14 and cable14.com.
I'm Nicole Martin, the proud ambassador for the Comfort Bear program. Comfort Bears provide these cuddly bears to local children who are terminally ill, facing trauma, or battling a serious illness. Every $20 donation will place a Comfort Bear into the loving arms of a child involved in our program. It is our hope to distribute 1,000 bears in 2022. Please join us and provide comfort to kids in their time of need.
The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Election Night 2022 here from Hamilton City Hall. It's Our Hamilton, Our Vote. I'm Mike Fortune. Along with me tonight for the ride, it's Mr. Larry Deanny. Larry, nice to see you today. You feeling good about things? You've been in these positions before, where you've been, running into wanting to be mayor and councillor.
Well, let me tell you that tonight's feeling for me personally is much easier than it had been when I was involved politically, although the excitement is still there. Yeah. This is a very important day. We get to elect those who will run our city for the next 4 years, and that will include not only a whole bunch of new councillors, because incumbents are not running, but a mayor as well. And we get the chance to make history tonight by electing maybe the first female mayor in the whole city, the history for the city, or a younger, non-political involved individual who's billing himself as a change agent. So we will make history one way or the other.
And of course, time will tell, as you alluded to, because we are delayed with the polls closing. They were supposed to be closing at 8. However, due to some technical issues, we'll get some more in depth on that. They won't be closing until 20 after 9, Larry.
Well, and to be precise, we've had a major glitch in transferring some computer information apparently, and so there is a law in the procedure that says that the polls have to be open for 10 hours, and where there's been a delay because they had to start voting later to fix this glitch, they're still going to give 10 hours. And so there's a bit of a checkerboard situation across the municipality where they may extend for 5 minutes, and there you're seeing it on your screen in one area, and they may extend it an hour and 20 minutes in the final area as well, which will have an impact on how we present our numbers, Mike.
And of course, there you can see Ward 12, the Royal Canadian Legion. That is the one with the longest time wait at this point, hence why we are going to 9:20.
Well, and in fact, they're not going to release results, even though they'll have them tabulated, because after all, you push a button and the computer spits out the results. Once the polls close in most places at 8 o'clock, they're going to hold them back, and we'll get Andrea Holland, who's the clerk, to explain to us why they're doing that a little later on.
We certainly will. Now, with all of that said, once we get into the big meat of things, Larry, what do you expect to see this evening?
Well, of course, we're going to elect the mayor. Everybody's focused on the mayor, even though there are some very exciting councillor races going on, and we'll talk about those as well in due time during this telecast. But everybody is focused on the mayor, and let me tell you, at least the two likely candidates, one of whom will be mayor, either Andrea Horvath or Keenan Loomis. We're working right till the end. I was at home at 5 p.m. This evening, and I got a phone call from a real live person from the Loomis campaign asking me if I'd gone out to vote yet. I had. And within 5 minutes, somebody actually knocked on my door from the Andrea Horvath campaign to see if I needed a ride to go to. So they're pulling their votes, or working right till the last second.
And of course, any good campaign, that is what you need to do. Of course, Bob Bertina is also in the mix, and we should also allude to Ijaz Butt, who has done a remarkable job in trying to get his message out.
Well, let's point out, that there's a number of candidates that are running, but the three main line, of course, are Horvath, Loomis, and Bertina. But a shout out to my friend Ijaz Butt as well. He's actually had a campaign. He's attended some debates. He's got some literature out. He's got a car with his sign,
I've seen the car.
Yeah, so he's trying. But in fairness, I think it'll be one of the three that we mentioned, and likely one of the two in terms of Andrea or Loomis, according to polls.
According
to
polls.
Hey, you never know.
You never know, and that's why we're here to find out at hopefully just a few minutes after 20 after 9. Some races to watch. I'm just going to throw a few wards out here, see if you agree, and throw yours in as well. Wards 2, 3, 13, and I'm even going to throw in 7 there, because that debate got a little passionate between Esther and Scott. What are some races to watch in your opinion?
Well, they're all worth watching,
yes.
And you've got multiple candidates in each of the wards, so they're all keenly interested to see how they do. But you're right. 2 has been an interesting race to watch because Jason Farr, as the downtown councillor, has presided over a rebirth of the downtown like you've never seen before. But he's also been criticized among some in various aspects of the ward, including the challenger last time, a fellow by the name of Cameron Crutch, who hasn't stopped running since the 2018 election. And some of the supporters of Cameron have gotten fairly nasty against Jason as well. Will it work? We'll see tonight whether that works or not. Raquel Rakovac is a candidate worth watching as well. She's worked extremely hard in Ward 2, and we'll see how that works out.
Ward 3 got a little interesting as well with current councillor Narinder Nan and, of course, candidate Furland.
Yes, so there are 3 candidates there. Narinder is the incumbent, of course, and there's always an advantage to that. Laura Farr, who ran against her last time, came second and did very well, very respectable, and she's worked very, very hard, I know, for a fact. She's been all over the ward twice, she told me. And then there is Walter Furlan as well, who's also covered the ward several times. The interesting thing about the Furlan campaign is that he has presented a platform very different from Narinder. It's been one that has decried the fact that Ward 3 seems to be a dumping ground for social services, injection sites, and so on. And that seems to have gained some traction. Whether it'll work in terms of getting him elected or not, we will see. But those who are looking at things closely indicate that Narinder may be in trouble, and the fact that a couple of councillors went to her aid and campaigned with her might indicate that they're concerned about that. But we will see. Incumbency is always an advantage.
It certainly is, and then you go to wards 4 and 5 where there is no incumbent, and we had a plethora of candidates jump out there.
Wow, and so it's the term dog's breakfast is such a bad term. I don't want to use that, but it certainly is a plethora. That's a better word, of candidates that have presented themselves. That's the ward where Alex Johnstone, former school chair, is running, has been endorsed by Samarula. That should count for something. Eric Tuck is there, ATU president. Max Francis, Hamilton is home, very much admired in the community as well. But the name that popped up today, or last night actually, is a young woman by the name of Angelica Hobson. And people said to me, watch out for her. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
And we should also mention, too, Tammy Wang has put a lot of steps, a lot of kilometers on her running shoes, I saw, and a former city employee, well, taking a leave of absence at least.
Right, and a very impressive resume on her part as well. So it'll be interesting to see who people finally select.
Before we get to Tara and Jessica, Larry, any big surprises jump out at you over the last couple months of election time?
Well, the biggest surprise, I guess, for me has been that Keenan Loomis has been able to present himself as the change candidate. When, in fact, and you look around where we are, there's 170 years worth of mayors and their pictures. Mine is one of them. We're all guys.
We covered that one up, by the way.
Yeah, we did cover that one up. But we're all male. And we have a chance to really make history and elect a female mayor. And yet that part of the narrative hasn't gotten the same traction as I'm not the politician, I'm absolutely brand new, and so you may want to vote for me instead of the retread politicians like Horvath and Brachina, which is an unfortunate characterization, but that's what's been used. So we will see which of those two changes Hamiltonians want to make.
Time will certainly tell. And of course, not just councillors and the mayoral race are we watching. We are also watching the very important school board trustees. And to hear talk to us a little bit more about that, Jessica Brennan on Tara Crunali.
Thank you so much, Mike. And of course, I am here with the incomparable Jessica Brennan, former school board chair, trustee, not that many years ago. So I'm really excited to hear more about what you've got to say. We were talking about wedge issues and how there really aren't any in the major ward races, but certainly there are wedge issues when it comes to the boards. Jessica?
Well, we're certainly seeing seeping in from the United States a stop woke or an anti-woke campaign that is actually national, not just locally. And there are a number of races where in this election we may see some challengers from the stop woke field. I'm not necessarily thinking they're going to crash through for a seat on any of the boards, but they have been a factor in terms of conversations at the door and in terms of campaign strategies.
All right, so do we want to go Catholic or public? Dealer's choice.
Well, given the fact that when I first ran as a public school trustee, the city clerk put me on the Catholic board list, maybe because of the Brennan being the last name, but they did correct that in time for the actual election. In deference to my father and various other Catholics, let's take a look at the Catholic board. I think there are two particular spots that I would want to keep my eye on. I don't think there's any doubt that Pat Daly will win again. He has been a trustee for 37 years. But what's interesting is that there is a person running against him, and I believe it's Michael DiGiacomo, who is making a statement saying he's opposed to the excessive influence of the Catholic ideology that is at the Catholic board. And maybe that seems odd, but Mr. Daly in particular is a very devout advocate for Catholic education and philosophy, and perhaps Michael DiGiacomo wants to lessen that, perhaps open it up a little more in terms of conversation.
I was going to say the same thing, that I was quite surprised to see someone with those views presenting as a candidate for the Catholic School Board, but we have to remember both are publicly funded and both have to adhere to a certain number of rules for public funding. Now, Pat Daly has been acclaimed for how many elections?
I'm not sure how many, but it is notable that in this particular one, I think he has two opponents. Now, is that going to make a difference to a man who everybody knows? No, probably not. But I think it does indicate to me that there is some push into the Catholic board education saying we have to find other ways to be. I also see that in wards 9 and 11, where there's a Tyler, and I think it's Ioro. Pardon, you're the Italian.
Why am I letting you sink on these things, Jessica? My apologies.
Yes, but Tyler professes to be advocating for innovation and inclusion, and I'm not saying Mr. Agro is not, but he's certainly been identified as supportable by the Campaign Life Coalition. And that might be an interesting race too.
Okay, now looking at these anti-woke candidates and such, we're not finding as much of that in the Catholic board as we were in the public, I guess, just given the ideology surrounding?
No, I'm actually seeing that there are a number of people who have been routinely voted in as trustees of the Catholic board who have been identified as supportable. So it's more than you might think.
Okay.
Kind of interesting. And I know, I think the challenge with this, is that people have not necessarily wanted the endorsements.
Okay, I see. Well, we are going to continue soon enough. Thank you, Jessica. We're going to go back to Mike, who's got the city clerk.
Well, joining us now down here at City Hall, Andrea Holland, City Clerk for the City of Hamilton. Andrea, thank you very much for joining us on what has been a highly anticipated day. Of course, not without some of its hiccups. We talked earlier off the show about some of the things that are going on in the city regarding the voting. An explanation, and if we could please hear from you about what has happened and how the city is looking to rectify this as we continue to move forward.
So we had a number of polls who opened up a little bit late today. So what we've done in order to rectify that, to ensure each poll is open for the number of hours required under the Act, which is 10 hours, we're going to be letting those polls stay open just as late as they were opening.
And what were some of the issues that arose?
So what those polls experienced is some connectivity with the technology that they're using. Also some of the locations had issues with connections to our voter software.
So are we looking at internet issues, internal wiring issues, anything like that at this point then?
One of them was an internet, the connectivity one. Okay. They had issues connecting to the modem that was there. And the other one was really trying to get onto the system.
So that's just when the ballot is cast going into the machine. We are also hearing that there have been issues where people have not been on the voter list, even though they've lived in a residence for 20 years. They've been turned away even though they have 1 or 2 pieces of ID. Can you comment to that at all?
So all eligible voters are allowed to vote at the poll. While the Elections Act does outline a number of pieces of identification that people can use to vote, it is not a requirement. So there is a form available from the province that allows any elector to take a declaration of oath, and we can get them on the list. There's a form to fill out, and then we would provide them with a ballot.
There was also some discussion, again, I'm just going off social media here, folks, in regards to some of the pollsters, some of the volunteers perhaps not being properly trained, delaying some of that process. What has been your feedback hearing that, Andrea?
So we have heard some feedback from some of the voters where we've needed to. Our staff are all trained. We all have manuals provided for them, plus there's in-class and online training. And what we have done is whenever we've heard feedback from any of the voting public, we've always reached back with that poll to make sure that any corrective measures have been taken place.
Now, you will have people out there on social media say, well, you've had more than enough time to know about this. Why were these issues not put in, why were these not looked after and other parameters put in place to ensure that it was a smoother voting process for individuals?
Well, with all large events, we hire 1,700 people. So we're also training 1,700 people. And we do provide everybody with the information that they need. So we are trying to provide additional information to those people who aren't exercising what we have in the manual.
So we are looking hopefully at 9:20. Can we expect by 9:21, 9:22 that results will just kind of start flooding in? Is it a matter of a couple clicks on a mouse and we can start to see numbers then?
Yeah, so the first results you're going to start to see is everything from our advanced polls. Those tabulators are here in City Hall, so we're going to be able to do all that right away. So that's everybody, that's the over 35,000 people who voted in advanced polls. Sorry, not just the polls, they also did vote by mail. They've also, our 50 institutions, we have those results as well. And we also have those who voted at our legacy polls and also some of our secondary institutions and our shelter locations.
I do have to ask before we going here, there was also some concerns about the mail-in votes, how it was delayed, pencils weren't included, so on and so forth. Response and how the city has handled that situation.
So we did send out notification to people to make sure that they use blue or black ink. I can confirm with all the voters who used that method, if they did not use the right pen or marker to mark it, the tabulator will spit that back out. We do have an adjudicator present, and we will make sure that if a replacement ballot is needed for that vote, then that will happen.
And finally, before we let you go here, post-election, what will some of your duties and your team's duties be to ensure that it's a smooth transition for the new councillors?
Well, my first duty starting tomorrow will be certify all the results to make sure that everybody who was elected, they are certified. We do have an orientation program ready for all those new members of council who will be coming on board, and the inaugural will be on the 16th of November.
Andrea Holland, I know it's a busy time for you. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate you coming down. There you have Andrea Holland, City Clerk for the City of Hamilton. And there is our iconic City Hall coming to you live. What a night this is going to be. Just to set the tone right now, a little quiet around here at the City Hall forecourt. We have CHML, CH here, and a number of other media. Larry joins me again after that brief chat we had with Andrea Holland there. Again, just to get a little perspective, Larry, on what has been going on since 8 o'clock this morning in regards to getting these connectivity, these computers, everything up and running, tickety-boo.
Yeah, and so Andrea explained, the glitch, the programming glitch, and I'm not going to pretend that I even understand all of that other than it didn't work as it should have worked. Yeah. And I'm sure that there will be a review indicating why that happened and why it should not have happened and how it can be prevented in the future. But she also pointed out that there is a conscious decision that's been made to not release any votes until the very last poll is closed. So even though they could, they've decided not to, and that's a call that I'm sure will be criticized by some and applauded by others. But it certainly adds to the drama of the evening, and we can anticipate at 9:20 when they release the numbers, when the last poll is closed, shortly thereafter there will be a data dump, and we'll know everything. Who's won?
And Larry, I've been in the industry on the communication side, telecommunication side. It's not always perfect. You can put in all the proper right things to do, and still something can go wrong. It's how you deal with it. And, I think Andrea and her team are doing the best they can, no matter how many rehearsals they would have had.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with technology, as we know, things can go sideways, and then you got to bring people in to fix it. It doesn't diminish the criticism, and especially in this environment, we've seen, electronic voting and technology being criticized in other jurisdictions. We don't want it to happen here. Staff here is doing what they can, and we are where we are. Postmortems will come later.
Let's get into the mayor's race. Again, I know we touched on it earlier. Between the top three, and of course we'll throw Ijaz Butt in there were 9 in total. In regards to how they were running their campaigns, did anything truly stick out for you that was different, unique, or did it all just kind of be a coming together and let's just get our vote out?
So, the dynamics were different there, right? So Keenan Loomis, I think, was the very first guy to nominate himself. There were rumors, it was the worst kept secret in Hamilton, that he was interested in running even before he could nominate himself. And so he's been at this the longest. Andrea, of course, only came in when things didn't work out for her provincially. There were some speculation, but of course her focus and mind was on the province, and then she came in. And it took a while for her to get going. If you remember that first press conference she gave, where essentially her message was, I'm in, and she was being asked all kinds of questions about details, and she wasn't ready to respond to those because she hadn't worked out her plan yet, and there was some criticism but also a perception that maybe she was a little too slow off the mark. Bob Rettina, actually, I remember when he won the mayoralty, he had no platform. In fact, he was asked, what about the platform? And he said, platform, schmatform. He was running on his name recognition. This time, he had a platform. Actually, a very interesting platform. But somehow, and this was the big surprise for me, people were not interested in details. They're interested in either get the bums out, or let's choose change, or let's make history and elect a woman because we need experience, as well as maybe it's about time to give a woman a chance. So you're going to be in one of those three camps, and that's how people will vote, and we'll find out soon what the decision is.
And of course, Larry, with 6 councillors and a mayor already deciding not to run, there was already going to be change anyway.
Yes.
And isn't every election somewhat a change election, more or less? I know you use the term, let's get the bums out. It's the old guard I think they were talking about.
It is the old guard.
Yeah.
And you know what the irony is, if you believe the polls, that the old guard, the old people, seem to favor Keenan, who presented himself as Mr. LRT, Mr. Downtown Guy. I'm for the young people, and yet it seems that the suburbs and the older generation seems to be adhering to his message a little more, and the younger people are going for Andrea. So yes, get the bums out is an old colloquialism, but for sure there are some who wanted to see clean house. Spectator, our local newspaper, has been beating that drum since Sewergate. And people, there's a hashtag, no more secrets. Anybody who voted to keep confidential the Sewergate issue, people are saying we're not voting for them. So that means Maureen Wilson, Narinder Anand, Jason Farr, Tom Jackson, Brad Clark, I'm forgetting some, but none of those should, and most of those guys will get reelected, quite frankly.
The list certainly goes on, and of course this whole election race, Larry, has also been all the things that have happened over the past 4 years and maybe beyond. You touched on Sewergate, Red Hill Valley Parkway, transparency, the Vision Zero, encampments. The list truly goes on. And it does seem that there are a lot of the candidates that all talked about the same thing. They agree we need more transparency. They agree that we all need to dig into more to the Coots cover-up, so on and so forth. Transparency, culture, all that stuff. So there wasn't really that divide issue like we've had in the past.
You know what was missing from this debate?
What's that?
What was missing from this debate, that for the last 4 years, we've had a resurgent city of Hamilton. Mm-hmm. There's been more development, more business, more jobs come to the city, even during COVID, than we've had in previous generations. And so the narrative really should be, what good things did these guys and ladies do, that we should keep on doing? But the narrative has been turned on its head, really, and let's look at the faults and let's blame people for the mistakes that were made. I'll make one prediction tonight. I don't know who's going to win, but I'll make one prediction. The new council will make mistakes.
You think so?
They'll make mistakes.
And the honeymoon period is going to be pretty short for them as well.
Yeah.
So many councillors have promised, or candidates have promised so much. Guess what? You better fulfill now.
Yeah, and really, managing expectations is going to be one of the tasks that the new mayor will have to accommodate. She's going to have to, or he is going to have to deal with the expectations that have been created. And everybody is going to look at the platform and I say, I like this, I like that, I like that. And people will vote for candidates depending on what they like about their platform, but not everything could be done at the same time. And so managing that expectation and communicating a plan for trying to accomplish what the mayor wants to do and council wants to do is going to be a tricky balance.
I know Mayor Fred Eisenberger said that in our chat that we had a few days ago on my show THN, and I think John Paul Danko said it best during one of the debates in regards to the other candidates. Do you truly know what it takes to be a councillor? You are pulled in 100, 1,000 different directions at any given time.
Absolutely. It's a complicated situation. People expect, and by the way, I think it's great that these new councillors or councillor aspirants want to come in and change the world, because that's the way you come into politics, with these ideals that you want to make a difference. And then the real politics sets in, which is, how do I do that? How do I convince my colleagues that we should go down this road? How can we get staff on board as well? Where's the budget going to come from? These are all the real issues that councillors are confronted with as they learn their job. That and finding out where the washroom is as well.
Little inside joke we got going on here. Larry found his golden throne from before. Let's take a quick look now at Andrea Horvath's headquarters. There you see, a little quiet right now, but no doubt people will start to trickle in a little bit, Larry, at some point, and they are hoping that there will be a big celebration. And just around the corner, we also know that Keenan Loomis has his campaign headquarters. And there you see it at the Bridgeworks, 200 Caroline Street. So very close together in regards to the celebrations. We will see who kind of comes out here on top. When we look at the Cable 14 debates, and I know you were an avid viewer of them, of course, Larry, did anything else really stick out for you in regards to 1 through 15?
You know what? Some people did better than others in terms of the debate, but let me tell you what impressed me about the debates. And that is that our citizens watched them. I saw the comments made both in the newspaper in terms of letters to the editor, as well as the comments made on social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram. Candidates themselves pointed to the debates, and people watched the debates. If not live, they went back to YouTube and watched them. And thank goodness Cable 14, by the way, made them available on different platforms. Even if you're not a customer, I'm sure they want everybody to be a customer, but even if you're not, they thought that it was important enough for people to know, so they made those debates available. So as well as the debates, and in some cases there were a lot of blah, 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 in some cases some good debating, but people, citizens, voters turned to them to inform themselves about their choices. And I think that's very good for democracy.
Before we got to the shot of Andrea and Keenan's headquarters, Larry, you'd mentioned about the budget. And let's not forget that as soon as this new group of councillors gets sworn in, it's a day or two after that where they have to start deliberating about the budget. And boy, talk about some big shoes to all of a sudden fill and big decisions that have to be made right off the get-go.
And so, yes, that's one of the hard realities that they're going to have to face, because some of them, and I've seen literature from many of them, are talking about either no tax increase or low tax increase. And, of course, staff is already telling us that we're at the 6 or 7% increase mark. And so that is going to hit them squarely when they are sworn in, that they have to deal with those numbers. And how do you triage that? Where do you get the money? What do you cut? What do you promote? How does that fit in with the agenda that you want to promote as well? And it'll be interesting to see how they manage that.
And so with that said, as you just alluded to, Larry, there will probably be some promises that these candidates have made over the last number of months that will now potentially have to be broken?
Well, I don't know about broken, but maybe delayed might be a better way of putting it. Don't forget, this is a 4-year term, and some of them, many of them will be brand new to the job. They're going to have to learn how to negotiate things through the process and with their colleagues as well as staff. But they've got 4 years to do that. So if they can't get everything done in the first month, there's always the second month.
Yeah, and there'll be no pressure from the people on social media to make sure that they start getting things done, is there, Larry?
No pressure at all. I mean, the people, I voted for you, you better do this. They'll be, tomorrow morning, you watch, they'll start.
Yeah, see how many people change their tune. Of course, we had the mayor's debate where Keenan Loomis, Andrea Horvath were live in studio down at the Westdale Village, Westdale Theatre. Bob Bertino could not make it. He had COVID that night. Let's take a look at those clips right now.
I guess my question would be, how do you put forward a confidence to people that you know how to be a true leader? Leadership means knowing what you're talking about, presenting that plan. How can anybody trust your leadership if already you're flip-flopping on all kinds of issues? And these are only the ones I know about at this moment.
Leadership means listening and adjusting your positions when it's the right thing to do. When I advocated for the expansion of the urban boundary, I was advocating on behalf of a constituency as the president and CEO of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. And over the course of that time in Hamilton, I also came to understand that people finally care about how we're growing as a city. And I think that's a great thing. And I think that farmland should be protected. When it comes to area rating, I don't think there's a flip-flop at all. I said that it should be eliminated. I am saying now that it should ultimately be eliminated. It needs to be phased out, though. And a lot of that is coming from going to the doors in the affected areas and understanding from them that they don't want to be paying higher taxes for transit if they don't know what that transit plan is. A lot of talk that you were running for mayor as you were running for premier. And in fact, you approached a lot of people about running for mayor.
That's completely untrue.
And so
making stuff up.
So how could you be doing both?
Well, you know what, Keenan? It's beneath you to make stuff up like that. That is absolutely not true, and you should be ashamed of yourself. The fact of the matter is, I had made a commitment, and I fulfilled that commitment. And I'm proud of the work I did as the leader of the political party. I took that party from Nowheresville into the official opposition not once, but twice.
A lot of people ask me why I'm running. The truth is that this city we love so much is broken. Tax dollars are being wasted by the millions. People are living in parks. Our streets are unsafe due to violent crime and reckless driving, and women are nervous about going out after dark. Meanwhile, our municipal government has done nothing, completely tied by scandals, secrecy, and the unchecked influence of special interest groups.
I wanted to ask Mr. Loomis, where does he come up with his 50,000 units in 10 years? How exactly is that going to happen, considering every single person that I talk to that's in building or construction or development has basically snickered at that possibility.
That which you cannot measure, you cannot achieve. 50,000 is not only doable, but it's absolutely necessary. It's what the province is requiring us to do right now by forcing us to plan to be a city of 800,000 people by 2050.
It's dangerous to think that with no experience, with very little time in our city, with really a one constituency history, that you can just walk into the mayor's chair and fix everything. That's not how it works. However, how it does work is knowing your city inside and out, knowing exactly how the processes work, how to speed them up, how to focus and prioritize, and how to connect with the people of Hamilton.
I'm the one that has been living in the city for the last 13 years. I've been completely enmeshed in this community and all of the issues and the challenges that we are dealing with. And I'm proud to be able to listen to the folks, expand the stakeholder base that I have been working for. I was the voice of business in Hamilton, and now I'm running to be the voice of Hamilton.
Nobody knows the city like I do. I've been dedicated to our city my entire life, and I hope that I can be your mayor again to get the city back on track and stop the takeover of City Hall by special interests.
What gives this person, as opposed to somebody who has been ingrained in Hamilton for her entire life and working for Hamiltonians on so many fronts for my entire career, what gives him, someone who's been here for a couple of years, who's managed a small organization with a handful of staff and a small budget, the capacity, the knowledge, the understanding to be the mayor of the city of Hamilton, to just like walk in and be the mayor of the city of Hamilton. I really don't understand where that chutzpah comes from.
I think that's disrespectful to all of the people who live here in Hamilton who weren't born and raised. I married into Hamilton. I'm lucky enough that I was in a position to be able to move here with my family in 2009. And Hamilton is a city that I quickly fell in love with. And I saw it as being a city that could be so much more because it had been so much more as well.
Yes, there you have it, our Hamilton, our vote, and we just saw a little snippet from Andrea and Keenan going back and forth during the mayoral debate that took place at the Westdale Theatre. We're about 40 minutes away from polls officially closing. Of course, that one in Ward 12 at the Legion is the longest one at this point. As you can see, we've added another gentleman to the panel to have a little discussion tonight. Mr. Scott Radley from 900 CHML and the Hamilton Spectator. Scotty, great to see you today. Your thoughts on what you saw during the mayoral debate, and especially the little going back and forth there between Andrea and Keenan.
Well, honestly, I thought the star of the mayoral debate was you. But after that, look, we knew that there was not going to be no chippiness in this election. Everyone has talked about respect, and we want change. We want everything to be nice and a new Hamilton that way. It's politics. You're never going to have nothing. I'm sure that Mr. Deaney, once upon a time in a mayoral debate, may have fired a little shot across the bow at one or two of his candidates. It happens. You're not going to not do that. The issue in this was, I'm not sure that either of or any of the shots that were fired were great shots. The thing about not living in Hamilton long enough was weird, and you know, American style politics, I mean, that's almost too easy. You can throw that out for almost anything now. So I just didn't think they were that clever or that something that was going to stick to anybody. They were just sort of
Yeah, and if someone that's still shooting some shots over the bow is Larry with his social media feeds.
Yes.
Yes, I get myself into a hell of a lot of trouble doing that, but it's a lot of fun as well. And when you've got nothing politically to lose, it's also
there you go
a way to pass some time. But let me ask you this, Scott, because I mean you're a keen observer of the political process. You wrote some articles in The Spectator, and I agreed with you early on that you were looking for what's the ballot box question. We had the stadium question, we had the expressway question, we had the LRT question. What's the question this time around? And there didn't seem to be a question. And for a period of time, it seemed to be that change was the question. And then because so many people were not running, change had already occurred. So we were flailing about for a question. Did we ever find one?
Well, see, I agree with you about the idea of change because everyone talked about that, and then you're right. When 7 people don't run, you've had change before anyone cast a single vote. So did we ever get one? Look, there are a number of issues. When I wrote that and I said there's no ballot box issue, I had a number of people write and say, you're an idiot. Of course there's issues. Yes, of course there are issues. No one argued not. Housing is a big issue. Transit was a big issue. Change, transparency, all those things are big issues. What we didn't have, as you say, was that binary thing. When the LRT was on, I'm in support of the LRT, I'm not in support of the LRT. Easy to pick a side, easy to have an opinion. Everybody and their neighbor argued about it. When it was the stadium, I like the stadium there, I don't like the stadium there. Easy to have a good debate, easy to take a position, easy to have a fight in your family living room about it with your spouse or whomever. Housing, huge issue, hugely important issue. What is you tell me, or anyone listening in 30 seconds, what is Andrea Horvath, Bob Bertina, or Keenan Loomis's plan? I'm not saying they don't have a plan. I'm saying it's not a simple issue to say, I like this or this or this. They are complex. Makes it far more difficult to have one thing that you key on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And really, they were so much in sync with each other on a lot of the issues that it'd be hard to sort of separate one from the other. Even the issue of change, because Keenan's refrain has been, I'm not a politician, I represent change. Andrea hasn't said this verbally, but the fact that when you look at her, you realize that she is change because she's female. We've never had a female mayor, so she does represent change. Bob Bertina's take on that was wholly different. In his case, his message was, you don't want to take a chance on these people. You want to take a chance on the way that we did it when I was in charge, which was progressive as well as pushing issues forward to solve problems rather than the problems we've had over the last 4 years. Whether you believe that or not is the question, but that's the narrative that he had.
One funny thing about the whole idea, whether you agree with change or don't agree with change, someone did point out, I think it was John Best in the Bay Observer pointed out, this is the only profession in which people would say experience is a bad thing.
Oh my God.
and so, but it's an interesting concept, and I do agree that we do want change at times. You do want new ideas and new faces, but I don't know that experience is always by default a bad thing to have.
And during the debates, that was asked to Councillor Tom Jackson. It was asked by Maria Pearson. And you talk about experience. Keenan Loomis has already said he's out after 2 terms, apparently.
Which is the most asinine thing anybody can say. It's like saying, look, as soon as I learned this job, I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just makes no sense to me.
What if he wins and he is fantastic? What if he wins and turns out to be Hamilton's greatest ever mayor? And says, but I promised I'm out after 2. Maybe we would all want him to stick around.
No.
I don't. I'm just saying,
I agree with you.
I don't think that you make these promises. I'm not objecting to the idea. I'm very open to the topic of term limits. I'd have that discussion. But I don't know what that limit should be, and I don't know that vowing you're out after a certain period of time before you've even won the first time,
before you've even got the job. Yeah.
It's the de facto statement that if you've been in this job for a period of time, that should disqualify you. Not your performance, But the fact that you've been around for a period of time, that to me is
that you must
stupid.
then be exhausted and tired and done, and therefore you have nothing
none of
else
which
to
are true.
offer.
You can say that about lawyers. You can say about doctors. You
Sure.
can say that about
and that's
radio
what I'm saying.
personalities.
Experience. This is the only job where we seem to, in some cases, say experience is a bad thing. Sometimes it's
even
great.
consultants, right?
Even
consultants here. Scott, you and I a few weeks ago were at McMaster watching the Marauders and Ohio State men's volleyball, and you brought up a very good point. And I brought it up earlier with Larry here on the program in regards to so many candidates have said so many things, so many promises, yet they are going to have a very short, if at all, honeymoon period because they have to get moving quickly.
Sure they do. And they are one candidate. They are one counselor. And even the mayor, maybe at some point during this term, we will have the strong mayor system imposed or given to us, or whatever what verb you want to use there. But right now, whoever wins mayor has one vote. And you know this better than any of us sitting here. There is only so much you can do. You can promise, I'm going to take over as mayor and change the entire culture of City Hall. How? You can do some things. You can lead by example. But you can't kick people out of council necessarily unless they've done something wild. There is very little you can do. Now, if the strong mayor system comes in, different story.
Right. I used to tell some of my council colleagues when I was mayor who were misbehaving, and I won't mention any names, but I used to tell them that I had more authority as a principal of a high school than as mayor in terms of dealing with recalcitrant or poor behavior. And that's true. However, the mayor's position is very important, whether we get the new powers or not, because you have a bully pulpit, you have resources that individuals, councils don't, you have access to community members as well. So if you're smart, if you're judicious, and you manage things well, and you don't try to go after every issue, but only important issues, you can actually get things done.
And we have seen as well in the past, there has recently even, where they've tried to do some change with the culture. John Paul Danko had to get rid of Councillor Whitehead out of a Zoom meeting. So I think there is a way, as to what you said, Scotty, in regards to leading by example and maybe taking charge when you are that deputy mayor.
I agree. And example is the best way to do it. I simply don't know that you can make a campaign promise that I am going to change the culture at Hamilton City Hall, because I don't believe you can come in, as Larry just said, and be a principal or be a teacher in the old schoolhouse building of 1920 with a yardstick and correct people with a slap over the hand. You can only ask them to be nice. And maybe if they go way beyond the bounds of something, you can take some action. But until then, it's just asking.
Larry and I, we've talked a lot about wards 1, 2, 3, 4 up to this point. Scotty, you're out in Ward 12.
Yep.
What has been the vibe? What have you seen knocking on doors, robocalls, in your opinion?
A lot of signs for a particular candidate, and I have been... we were talking about on the radio show on CHML just before I came on here, and it's one of the real questions that I don't know the answer to, and I never have. What is the connection, if there has ever been a study, between signs and votes?
So let me try, and this is real live just on Friday with my poker group, and we play penny ante poker, but we get together once a month.
$25,000 a hand is what I heard.
No. I lost $20, and I cried all weekend.
I've been hearing about it.
But nevertheless, one of the fellows is from your ward. And I said, who are you voting for? And he mentioned the name of one of the candidates, mispronounced it, by the way. And I said, what do you know about him? Why are you voting for him? I see his signs everywhere. So signs are an indicator of momentum and presence. And even though this fella absolutely knew nothing about this individual, he was inclined to maybe vote for him. And so that's what signs do.
It creates name recognition. There's no question if you don't know anything. And I'll tell you, the one area where I think that matters the most is in school board trustee, because I am telling you that I have talked to a bunch of people recently. I was going to do a story and I just ran out of time about who are you voting for school board trustee? Do you know? And the few that were able to tell me, when I then said, why? Well, there was this blank stare, and it was mostly because they had seen a sign or knew the name. But as for what do they stand for or what's their platform? You mean they're supposed to have a platform? I thought they just had signs.
And you know what, Scotty? That's actually a great segue. So thank you very much for coming in, giving us your opinion. Enjoy the rest of the night as the polls will be closing hopefully soon. More about the school board trustees to Tara Crognally and Jessica Brennan.
Thank you so much, Mike. And yes, I am here with Jessica Brennan. And just like Scott said, we have to talk about the public school board trustee races. So give me some interesting ones.
I think Wards 6 and 9, which are up on the mountain, very interesting to me. Kathy Archer has been there for a while, went away and came back again. In the meantime, Jay Eddington is running against her, and she brings with her endorsement from the Labour Council, the Equity Network, various other associations and organizations. She herself is a strong advocate for educational policy and programs that serves the community. And she's run before. Not won, but she's won before. So I would like to see how that comes out. Kathy herself has said she won't run again. This will be the last term. But we've just heard some really good conversation with the panelists over with Mike about the fact that people who say that, I'm not sure you can actually commit them to it or believe it.
Well, and the other thing is, do you really want someone that is saying, okay, this is it for me, but I'd like to do my victory lap. Give me another 4 years.
I think when you're choosing a school board trustee, I think you want to choose someone who has something more than that. You know, you don't want to see someone who wants to run around the track. You want to see someone who has a policy or a platform or program or a service that they want to advocate for. So we'll see how that plays out in 6 and 9. Another ward, I think, or competition that I think is very interesting is up at wards 8 and 14 with Ahuna Mehdi and Becky Buck. Becky Buck, as the vice chair of the board, came under
we'll say scrutiny.
Yeah, I'd say appropriate scrutiny for some of her comments, and also appeared not to be embracing an inclusion platform. And Ahuna, both as a student trustee and then later on in other capacities provincially, has been a very strong advocate for student voice and finding ways that the board can really be held accountable for creating safe learning environments. So I'm very interested in that ward as well.
I think it's terrible, all the things that Ahuna said happened and what was found to have happened. Were you surprised at those things happening at the board level?
This is when I'm supposed to tell some political slant on your question. I would say no. I was not surprised. I was there as a trustee for 11 years. I worked with, obviously, the board, the superintendents, principals, parents, and the community, and I felt, maybe from day one, that our understanding of how to bring people in, how to understand their issue, how to really see it, education from their perspective, was very thin and weak. So I applauded and advocated for Ahuna, and I'm very pleased with her effort. But frankly, Becky Buck does an excellent job of responding to parents' direct personal concerns.
Well, I think she actually got about 61% of the vote last time.
And that will make a difference. However, Ahuna, along with Sabrina and also Kojo on the council side of things, have been working as a team, going around together. And I'd be interested to see whether that team approach has also elevated each of them to their positions.
Well, I guess in about half an hour we'll be finding out. Do we want to quickly throw to one more ward before we go?
Well, I think one of the ones, Ward 3, is also interesting to me. Maria Felix Miller was a very strong advocate for student inclusion, student-centered learning. But she may be in some difficulty with Larry Pattison. He has been supported by the Campaign for Life group, and also has made some fairly odd statements that are not easy to sort of decipher.
To digest and decipher. And we will leave it at that, and we will throw back to you, Mike.
Tara, thank you very much for that. Larry, we take a look there at Keenan Loomis's headquarters. Down there at Bridgeworks again, people will eventually start to trickle in very slowly. No doubt Keenan and his crew are probably at his campaign office making their way down. And you can see some people, if they're down there, they can wave at us. We're waving to them. You know, Larry, there's just so much to be talking about here. But before we get into more about the mayoral race, there are a lot of wards that are coming up here. I found one, I don't know about you, we're hearing about Ward 13. Arlene Vanderbeek and Alex Wilson. I remember moderating that debate and seeing how composed and knowledgeable Alex Wilson was, and Arlene seemed to be a little bit on the defensive, and maybe that's even me just being nice saying that. What are you hearing coming out of Ward 13?
No, I actually did not watch that debate. I heard about it and went back to it and watched snippets of it as well. But the considered opinion of those who pay attention is that Arlene was blown away by this young person, and that may translate into a problem for her. That's one of the wards that we need to keep our eyes on, or at least would be interesting to see once results come out. I saw Arlene at the Rockton World's Fair, and she was there with her husband greeting would-be voters. There was nobody in the booth, and although there were lots of people there, I went over and said hello, of course, and I've known Arlene for a long time, but she may have some problems retaining her seat.
The one thing I was impressed with Alex, watching him come into the debate and speaking, Larry, he had no notes in front of him. Everything that was coming out was coming from his brain, right out of his mouth, all making sense. And now with that said, I've also done some talks out in Dundas. And when I would pose the question, I would say, you all ready to vote on the 24th? Yes, we are. Do you know who your candidates are? Yes, Arlene. Right, she's the first one. Who's another candidate? And I kind of got some blank stares. Now, that was about 3 weeks ago. Perhaps things have changed.
Well, and of course, you know, as Brian Mulrooney used to say about elections, that nobody pays attention until the gun goes off. And in the federal case, it's when the writ is dropped. In municipal case, it's about 2 weeks before voting day that people really begin to focus. Now, that may have changed a little bit with the advanced voting. People might be paying attention a little earlier, and we've had an uptick in numbers of people who voted. But incumbency is golden, and that proves it. People knew who Arlene was because she'd been there before. They didn't know who this young man was because they didn't see the debate and couldn't even name him. So that may carry her through. But in terms of merits, if that debate was the measure, she did poorly and he did well.
And of course, another incumbent, who's been around the horseshoe for quite some time. I know he's a good friend of yours as well. Tom Jackson, who,
yes.
He just he hands himself like a true pro. And while I was watching this debate, and again, I don't know if you saw this one, standing there, I was a little surprised by the other candidates with the applause and the thank you and the gratitude. Tom would take their requests and say, thank you very much for that, answer their question, and then he would just go down the list of everything that he's accomplished. There was a lot of opportunity for Tom to really showcase what he has done for so many years, even the last 4.
I will make this other prediction. Tom will win in a cakewalk. I don't even think I know who the other candidates are, and I don't, no disrespect to them. But I have relatives who live in Tom's ward. Tom looks after his people. And he's been the longest serving councillor, and he can stay in there for as long as he keeps doing that job.
Well, let's give some credit to the other candidates that are there. Of course, in Ward 6, Donna Padu, Chris Sly, Dan Preston, and Stefan Spolnick. So to each of them, thank you very much for putting your names on the ballot, going up against Mr. Jackson, and really to all candidates that have really taken a leap of faith here. Guess what, man? We got to go take a short break. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
All righty. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, though, more live reaction interviews directly from Hamilton City Hall, where it's our Hamilton, our vote. Tune in to the Hamilton Network as I bring you the people, stories, and all the experiences shaping the Hamilton area through insightful interviews and information you can use. Michael, thank you so much for being here. Off the top, all starts weekdays at 5:30 right here on Cable 14 and cable14.com.
The 2022 Senior of the Year Awards honor seniors who are 65 and older who have made an outstanding voluntary contribution to enrich the social, cultural, or civic life of our community. Tune in this Thursday at 7 on Cable 14 and cable14.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Dennett, President and CEO of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. Last year, our Chamber revived Hamilton Day, a one-day shopping event to lend support to the small and local businesses across our great city. Now it's time to do it again. On November 5th, show some love to your favorite retailers, restaurants, and services, both in person and online. Please visit hamiltonday.ca to learn more.
The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. And there we see Andrea Horvath's headquarters. People starting to make their way in. The purple and yellow that she has been known for during this campaign. Been very active out at a lot of events. Just recently saw her this past Friday. She was down at the Hamilton Tiger Cat game, and one of her last priorities when she was out, and there's Keenan Loomis, was to go and help with the Good Shepherd Center, volunteer some of her time. And there you see Keenan Loomis's campaign, Larry, where he was out with his family, had a big celebration at Sasso Pizza there up on Upper James.
Yeah, what a contrast in messaging that they wanted to give. One was organizing still, and the other one was providing for the community, those less fortunate. So that's an interesting dichotomy. But I want to talk a little bit, if we got some time,
yeah, we do,
about the fact that other communities are getting results, and we are not getting a thing here, even though the clerk's office has results. They have decided, as Andrea was saying, that they're going to keep everything until the very last poll closes. Other communities had the same glitch, apparently, that we've had, and they are releasing results that the public is waiting for. Our community is not. I think there's going to be some criticism. Maybe there would have been criticism one way or the other, but it's part of what we've been talking about in this campaign, keeping secrets. We don't want secrets, certainly not about the vote.
But Larry, come on, it's election night. Let's just increase the anticipation. What are you and I going to do for another hour anyway, right?
Look, let me tell you that there are, I don't know how many candidates presented themselves, 150 candidates. They are sitting on pins and needles wanting to know what the fruit of their labor has produced. They want to be able to see the number, even if it's going to be bad news for many of them as well.
No doubt. But hey, as they say, patience is a virtue. And to those that do come out successful, the wait will have been worth it, no doubt.
I am going to run for mayor again, and my platform will be no secrets at election night.
Oh, yeah? Can we put that in a promise?
That's it.
Okay. You heard it here first, folks. I'm sure there's a bunch of social media people going, oh, please no.
Yes. Oh, I see. Please don't run.
Yeah, please don't run. Yeah,
sure,
there you go. Sorry, little joke with you there,
Yeah.
Larry. We just got some word too. Out in Haldeman, Ken Hewitt is actually trailing. He's in third place right now. Jake Vanden, I think I got this right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Social media. Vandenduke, he's the gentleman that sold Metro Loop to Execulink. I got it right. I got it here. He's in the lead right now. So obviously he's done some work out there.
He's done some work, but all I can say is no Hewitt's ice cream for the voters of that community.
And they came out big during COVID. There's no doubt about that with what they were doing. Let's get into a few more wards here. Let's talk about one of your favorite wards. Ward number 1. There we had Maureen Wilson, Ian McPherson, and we also had John Vale.
John Vale. Now I can see John Vale in the audience here tonight in bated anticipation, I'm sure. He ran, he's a good candidate, ran I think not an orthodox kind of campaign, but worked quite hard and presented an alternative to Maureen. Some people think Maureen is a shoe-in that area. We will see tonight. John was a good candidate, and so was that third young man whose name I've now forgotten.
Yes, he was really impressive with us as well when he was in studio. Ian McPherson.
You know what? He was a very bright young man. One of two individuals. There may be others, I'm not aware. One of two individuals. Anthony Frazina in Ward 8 is the other candidates in a wheelchair, and it takes courage to run. Period. It absolutely takes courage to run when you are facing challenges. And in fact, our democracy is richer when we have this diversity before us, and we'll see how they do.
And of course, with so much talk about buildings and City Hall being accessible, great to have those voices out there talking about such a topic.
Well, I can tell you this, that Anthony Frazina sent me pictures of this. He was out campaigning with his team, and the sidewalk was uneven, and his wheelchair toppled over, and he actually fell. And that kind of proved his point, I think, around accessibility for people who have those sorts of challenges. So let's applaud at least their effort, and we'll see how they do tonight.
One thing, we talked with Scott Radley a little bit earlier, Larry, in regards to any topic that was kind of decisive. There was one that maybe didn't get as much play as we thought it would, but it is the police budget, which I would like to bring up in regards to those that want to defund, or as they're saying on social media now, I guess detask.
Which is the same thing, by the way.
Which is yes.
Yeah, they want to detask so they can defund.
Or those who are in full favor of keeping it and adding it. Now, our viewers all know where you stand on this.
Absolutely.
And you have a son that's with the Hamilton Police Services.
I have a son who's with the service. But I mean, my support for public safety, whether it be the police, ambulances, or fire, goes back to my early days in politics. Because I believe that people want safe communities. And there's a thin blue line that protects us. And yes, sometimes we see controversies and they need to be dealt with. There needs to be oversight. The budget needs to be scrutinized. But when people talk about defunding, as one of the candidates in Ward 14, I guess, from Hamilton Center for Civic Inclusion, not only wants to defund, wants to abolish the police. That is a bridge too far for Hamiltonians, and I don't think that they will support that. I'll be very surprised if Hamiltonians turn and support that sort of platform. But there are other mainline candidates in Ward 1 and Ward 3, in Ward 12, that have talked about detasking as well, and blaming the chief, by the way, saying that the chief wants to detask as well. Well, of course, the chief is saying that the police are asked to do all kinds of things that they have to respond to, and they'd rather not, but they're asked to respond, and they do respond. The chief is not saying lower our budget.
Very hot topic. We'll get into that a little bit more. Let's get back to Tara and Jessica. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Mike. And yes, to 5 and 10.
Yes, I think 5 and 10 is going to be interesting to watch because it is a return, at least in the campaign stage, of Todd White, who was defeated last time, and also, but at the same time had been a successful chair of the board and had been a trustee for some time. So he's come back running. So it would be interesting to see if he gets back in. He does have Nancy Silva Khan, who is being endorsed by the Labour Council and the equity networks, etc. So it may very well be, depending on her organization, because it does matter, organization on the ground, whether she can take it. Otherwise, I would think Todd's in a really good place because, first of all, he is a statistician as a politician. Certainly knows where to spend his time and his money and his resources to get the vote. So I could see that he would have a leg up on that. But at the same time, it's wards 5 and 10. And in the past, it would have been just Ward 5. So he still has to have a presence in 10 as well.
I mean, his defeat 4 years ago was one of the most salacious stories, yes, I thought, of the entire election last time around. Yeah. And really, I felt that there was very little attention paid to how it all played out and the characters involved.
Yes.
So I really do hope that for his sake he finds some closure one way or the other by getting to this.
There is a Netflix movie coming out on that, I am sure. But yes, so he's realigned himself. He's got 2 young children now. They're in the school system. Previously, he had been chair and without children in it. So his advocacy, his sensitivity towards the issues, I think, might be a little more focused, a little honed. So we'll see how that goes. On the other hand, Nancy Silva Khan would be also a very good addition around the board table.
Yeah. Well, 5 and 10 will be represented well one way or the other, I think.
I believe so. There are, of course, other competitors, but I'm focusing on what I would think would be the 2 main ones. And then Ward 15 to me is extremely interesting. Graham Noble was originally going to run as a trustee in Ward 1. And he decided to move his candidacy to Ward 15 because there was clearly a challenge with a Stop Woke candidate in that ward. Now, how that plays out in Ward 15 in terms of him getting the number of votes in order to go over the top, I don't know. Was it the right decision for him? Certainly for those people who are concerned about the Stop Woke campaign, we're very grateful that he took himself out of Ward 1, where hopefully Elizabeth Wong will win, and so we wouldn't want 2 good people not able to make a contribution. But still, out in Ward 15, anything can go. I'm not sure how he's going to fare there.
Looking federally or provincially at some of these, I don't even know what to call them, but certain parties that are coming out of the woodwork and gaining momentum and gaining votes, it is a little bit disturbing, more than a little bit disturbing, and it requires all of us, not this time because it's over, but to really exercise our democratic right to vote.
From their point of view, it's very astute strategy. Go for a low-level position where not too much attention is paid. Look for ways to get onto a school board. Get in there by frightening people about critical race theory. various other kinds of elements about curriculum, and then get on the board, with the intention to get on the board and cause great disturbance. And if you've seen some of the school boards in, let's say, Florida in the United States, it has been an absolute nightmare.
Okay, well, we will continue. We're going to throw back to Mike. Thanks so much.
To both of you, thank you very much. There is City Hall, and the anticipation is building here. People are starting to filter in ever so slowly. There you saw on the lower third that the polls will be closing in less than 5 minutes now. Other municipalities have already been releasing their results, and we know that there are a number of mayors and councillors that have already been crowned with their victory throughout other municipalities. But enough said, we will be getting to that very shortly. Joining me now, part of the Men's for Hair Club, is from Hamilton Community News, Mr. Kevin Werner. Kevin, great to see. Hey, we have to have a little bit of fun while we're here.
We really have to. I make you look better with you.
Kevin, tomorrow night I'm wearing the wig. That's all I can say.
I'm sorry, folks. Just trying to have some fun. Kevin, you've been one of the hardest working journalists out here throughout this campaign. You have been at the grassroots level at campaigns, launches, fundraisers that they've done. Your overall impression of what you've been able to see throughout this campaign?
I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction in Hamilton among probably the majority of Hamiltonians about how City Hall has worked and is not working for them. They demand basic services, and they're not getting it. And there seems to be that change is in the air. I mean, it's a term that's been floated around for the last year. I think this time people will make that change, and the change will happen.
Well, change has already happened. 7 people from around the Horseshoe have not run. They've decided to step back from municipal politics, and that's pretty well half of the council, and that includes the mayor's position as well. So change has happened. Kevin, I'd like your opinion on this because you're very astute, and I've known you for many years. Lots of good things happen in the city. We've had unprecedented economic growth, development, business opportunities, even in spite of COVID, which put a damper on a lot of things. We've had those good things happening. Why is that narrative at least not part of it? It's all the negative stuff. Why?
That's a good question. I mean, Hamilton is it's going to be experiencing 3 major projects: the LRT, waterfront development, and the entertainment district. Yet people don't seem to be focused on that. They're focused on Shadow.
To what extent is the media responsible for that narrative?
I don't know if it's...
I mean, how many nice stories have you written in the last year?
Well, a few, once in a while. But also, there's the basic grassroots issues, you know, the pedestrians who are struck, the people who are unable to pay their bills for electricity. Economic development, okay, but people are losing their jobs. There's seniors on looking at high home prices.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not focused on the big LRT.
Perhaps we hear one of the reasons why we're having this election and these talks around this election, I should say, is there's been so much talk about permits and $1 billion again, record-setting year, and perhaps that is upsetting a lot of the folks who are in that lower to mid-income. It's like, well, wait a second. The rich keep getting richer. Where is our opportunity? And of course, then that will lead to encampments and so on and so forth. Do you think that plays anything into it as well, where we're bragging about all the good stuff that we've done, but wait a second, it's still not helping us at the grassroots level?
Well, it's not filtering through to the grassroots. No question about it. That 2.9% average tax increase, that translates into higher property taxes in Carlisle, in Mount Hope, in Ancaster. I mean, they don't see the so-called good stuff.
Larry, very quickly before we got to throw over to Tara.
Well, it takes longer than a statement, but essentially, you know, when you have that economic growth and these people pay taxes, those taxes go to redistributing the programs across the spectrum so that people at all ends benefit, not just people at the top.
Kevin, our time is wrapped up. Thank you very much, though, for stepping in. Looking forward to your article going into tomorrow. I'm sure you'll have an election wrap-up.
He's written it already.
I sure hope so.
Who's the winner? Winners. Thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate that. We're now going to be throwing back over to Tara Krunali.
Thank you so much, Mike. And I am now joined by Don Danko from Ward 7, chair of the board up till now. And I guess you're awaiting the results, which will be coming very shortly. So if you're reelected, which, it feels so odd to be saying these things with you now, but are you going to be seeking the chair's position again?
Well, we do have a significant turnover that we know is going to happen for the board. So with a new director that's just come in, we are hoping to have a new associate director. I was planning to seek the chair just to have some stability through the transition to the new board. But I am hopeful that over the next year that someone may decide that that's something they're interested in. I could mentor them and eventually pass that torch.
Okay, and you mentioned that there's someone new at the board level that you'd be working with?
Well, so we know that a number of trustees aren't seeking re-election in the trustee role. Some of them are seeking other positions, and some are choosing to move on. So knowing that we have new faces coming in, and as I mentioned, our Director of Education started in August. So new to the board, she comes from TDSB in Toronto, has been doing a fantastic job, but it is a transition. And so having some historical knowledge, having the governance experience, I think it would be helpful and help smooth that process of moving to a new board, new director, etc. So I'm hopeful that I can support the board in that way.
I mean, you live and breathe this position. You understand how important school boards are to our community. Are you constantly surprised by how few people actually go out and vote for these positions?
It is often disappointing, and having run in a couple of elections, seen other trustees running, I know the amount of work that happens getting to people's doors, getting literature out. I would say this election in particular, we did not have the media coverage that trustees needed to help people understand the role and be informed about who's running. We did have profiles, I'm grateful, the last week before the election, but not before advanced polls. And it's always surprising at the door when you do get the question, well, sorry, what is a trustee? And you think, but I've been to your door before. We've had this conversation before. I've sent things out, and other candidates have done the same. But it's not something that's front of mind, often unless you have kids in the system and you have questions or you're having challenges in the system. That's when you become familiar with the role of trustee as an advocate for parents.
And I mean, I'll admit, until I had my own child, sometimes I would leave that position blank because I don't want to just vote for a nameless or a faceless name, but it is very important. Now, are you finding that you're getting some unwanted attention with some of the candidates that are coming out?
We do have an interesting slate of candidates. I would say in most elections you do have groups that run a number of candidates, and oftentimes we do see that there are platforms that are concerning. And so my focus, of course, is making sure that every student, every staff is supported in an inclusive school environment. Some people don't always understand the role of trustee. So we have seen some anti-woke candidates, and their platforms seem to be centered around changing the curriculum. That is not the role of the trustee. That is set at the ministry level. We do not tell teachers how to teach in their classroom. We do not direct the lessons or the curriculum. And so I think for candidates who may be elected that perhaps have different values than I do, or concerns that they're hoping to get addressed, I think it's going to be interesting for them to learn about the role and what they can and cannot do. So that, again, is something that I'm hoping to support, bringing people together who may have very different viewpoints and really setting some norms and expectations about this is how we're going to behave as a board. You may have concerns about X, Y, or Z, but as a school board, we actually have a set of values and we need to align with them. Going outside of those or speaking outside of those or speaking about people in our system disrespectfully is crossing a line, and we do need to take steps if that happens.
Great. And moving into this new board, what are your hopes? What are you looking to push forward?
I'm really hoping that we can get a cohesive board together. Again, maybe different viewpoints, but we can find some common ground. We need to set new strategic directions, and those are the directions that really set the course for the entire system. And so it's an opportunity to get feedback from all of our different interested parties, our parents, our staff, our community partners, everybody, to make sure that what we're focusing on, what we're investing in, is reflecting the needs of our students and staff right now and going into the future. coming out of the pandemic, we know things have shifted. A lot of things were paused during the pandemic. So a big focus this year is recovery, right? Recovery for staff, recovery for students, recovery for learning. And I'm hopeful that if we can set a positive tone as a board, we can really support the system move forward through that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dawn, for joining me. And back to you, Mike.
Tara, thank you very much for that. And there you see a shot of Keenan Loomis's headquarters. Getting excited, sitting down. It kind of looks like they're in a movie theater there. You get the popcorn and all that going. They're 200 Caroline Street North. Some exciting anticipation there. And any minute now, folks, we are going to be seeing numbers coming through. And there you see the headquarters of Andrea Horvath just around the corner at the Spice Factory. Of course, there we saw Don Danko chatting. And with Don Danko coming down here to City Hall, the current Ward 8 councillor running for re-election, John Paul Danko. You sent out a couple tweets today, John Paul, in regards to how this is you and Don's, your 6th election running together. And I'm just curious, you sent another tweet out. Did you ever get that plane with the banner hanging from it to go out on Election Day?
No, unfortunately, we weren't able to book the plane with the banner, so we did put a sandwich board on the dog and walked him around the block a bunch of times.
Hey, it was probably a lot cheaper than the plane that Vito rented.
I was going to suggest an air balloon, like the one that the Wizard of Oz used to leave Oz. John Paul, you had challenges, of course, or challengers in your writing, including someone in a wheelchair and some other candidates as well. Kudos to them for putting their name forward. But everybody expects that you will win. Do you have any insights for us on how the vote went?
I have no idea. I after the little mix-up with the polling results and the delay finding out, we decided, and I don't have a campaign office, it's our dining room. So instead of hanging around in our dining room, we decided we'd just come down here and find out along with everybody else. So I'm waiting with anxiety along with everybody at home.
Well, of course, during COVID, we all got to know what the Danko dining room looked like so well with the neon in the background. But in regards to this process, and as a sitting councillor looking for re-election, any thoughts on how we can maybe look at making sure 4 years from now, let's really look down there, that this doesn't happen again? Have you given that any thought to this point?
Well, I'm sure our clerk staff are going to review, some of the issues that they had. My understanding is it's a new vendor, so there's some kinks to work out. Okay. But obviously, it's some serious problems like that, especially with the get out the vote efforts for candidates, where they're relying on real live updates of the voting list to know when people have voted, when they haven't, so that they can go and pick out those voters that they have identified as supporters.
Well, I think that there are going to be lots of concerns and complaints about the way things went. One of the things that we've observed is that other municipalities who had the same sorts of glitches have released information as it was available to them. Our staff here in Hamilton has decided to keep everything secret until, which by the way has been a theme in this election, keeping secrets, until everything is known, and then they will release it. Do you think it would have helped at the very least if as we learned of information, that it would have trickled out to the public and the candidates who've got to be on pins and needles?
Well, I don't want to second guess the judgment call by our staff, on election night. It's very important to make sure that elections are fair and that everybody finds out at the same time. All the candidates have scrutineers at the polling station, so they will know what their results are ahead of time before they're released publicly. But again, that's something that I think we'll review and make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
John Paul, this was your second full campaign that you have run. Was there anything that you did differently that you learned from your first go-around? Or, being the incumbent, did it make things a little easier for you?
This is my third campaign.
Third.
If you count the by-election in 2016.
My apologies. Thank you.
I remember that by-election.
Yeah.
But you lost it just by
92 votes, but who's counting?
Yeah.
This time
I lost the mayoralty by 300, but who's counting? Go ahead.
No, this time around, we did the same work that we did in the previous two, and I think that's what people don't really realize about an election campaign is just how much grunt work is involved. The door-to-door, the day, every single day. I had a span of 4 days where I walked 75 kilometers just myself going door-to-door. So it is an incredible amount of work, and of course, no candidate can be successful without their team. So really thankful for the people that supported me throughout the campaign and got us through to the finish line, because it is those months and months of work. It is an incredible commitment for anybody.
Will there be any huge surprises at the end of the night, do you think, in terms of some of your colleagues?
Well, we've got our prediction board at home where we did a big pool, so I'm not going to share that publicly at this point. There are a couple races that I'm definitely a little concerned about, but that's what election night is, right? This is the championship game. This is sports for real life. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who the public decides.
Concerned how? You mentioned there's a few races you're concerned about.
Well, there's a couple candidates that may not particularly share my view or my vision for the city, Hamilton, but I'll still be working with them as colleagues on council, and it takes some time to get to know each other.
Mm-hmm. Larry, you got a final question there for John Paul before
I was waiting for to name names, but he's not going to do that.
Okay.
Listen, anticipated congratulations if things go well for you, and I think they will. And kudos to your challengers as well, especially
Absolutely.
my friend Anthony Frazina, who give it his best, and we'll see what happens.
John Paul Dankiel, thank you very much. As you can see on the lower thirds, numbers are starting to come in at this point. Andrea Horvath with a slight lead over Keenan Loomis, and we will continue to go through the ticker now. There you see Andrea just over 3,000. Keenan just slightly behind. Bob Bertina currently at this point well back of the pack right now. And Larry, as we start to see these numbers, Larry's looking for his water. That's okay. We're going to get, no, hey, it's live
Sorry
TV.
about that. No,
That's okay.
listen, these are very, very early numbers. I'm glad to see that some of them are coming in. I've been texting some of the candidates to see how they're doing.
There you see Matt Frances over Linda Lukasik right now.
Matt seems to have a lead, but it's very early. But look at Andrea and Keenan. Really, we're looking at...
it's a two-horse race.
Yeah, we're looking at, a very, very close race there.
As we continue on there, you see Ward 5, Mr. Ladner, Hurst, and Habza, with just a few votes coming in on their side. And again, you alluded to it as well, and I've said it too, to any candidate, Larry, that takes the time and the courage to put their name on a ballot, kudos to you as we continue to move on with Ward 5 numbers here. Ward 6, no numbers in yet, but...
Nobody has voted for Jackson, Preston, or Pudu. Isn't that amazing?
You are predicting a Tom Jackson victory.
Tom will roll over his opposition, and some would say he's deserved re-election if that's what happens.
He has had the same headquarter office at 1070 Stone Church there for many, many years, and it was all full of the blue and yellow one more time. Nothing in from Ward 7 yet. Interesting one between Esther and Scott.
Everybody thought that was going to be maybe an upset, and Scott was going to reclaim a seat. From friends who live up there, they tell me that they've seen Esther all over the place, or signs are certainly all over the place, but they haven't seen Scott's presence as strongly felt. So who knows what's going to happen there.
And there's a live shot right now of Hamilton City Hall. You can see people are starting to trickle in. No results yet in Ward 8, and no results yet in Ward 9, and we are still waiting on the numbers to increase for the mayoral race. I want to go back a little bit to the police budget, because we didn't give it enough time, I don't think, Larry. We are a city that is growing, and I kind of am trying to wrap around my head why people would like to see less police on the streets when we know for a fact when police are out on the streets, when they were wearing the yellow jackets, things were changing. People will say crime is down, you don't need more police, but you understand this a lot more than I do. Explain to our viewers.
Well, I don't think people want to see fewer police on the streets. I think if there's a complaint that I always heard during my 24 years in municipal politics is they wanted to see more police on the streets rather than fewer. I think we also had, quite frankly, we have an ideological bent that is anti-police, and it seems to have taken hold not only in Hamilton but across the province. I think the provincial government back in the day made errors in terms of handcuffing some of the processes that the police were able to go through, and people are conflating bad things that happen sometimes with public safety and the need for public safety. So it's a challenge because the police budget is a huge budget, but the alternative is to weaken public safety. And that's a position that I always took, and it'll be interesting to see because we've got some candidates running on abolish police and defund police platforms, if not overtly, certainly covertly, and we'll see how the voters feel about that.
And to the viewers out there, we're looking over here because this is where our big board is, so we apologize if we're not making complete eye contact all the time. We're watching the numbers as they're coming in. There was one clip that was talked about with Keenan and Andrea during the mayoral debate.
Look at by the way, look at Dundas.
There, just came
again,
up
early, but Alex Wilson is doubling Arlene Vanderbeek, and that's an area that might see an uptick.
Ward
look
14.
At early votes. Kojo Dempsey leading right now in Ward 14. So we'll see what happens there.
Of course, Colleen Wicken there with 50 votes right now, the former assistant to Ward 14 Councillor Terry Whitehead. Certainly knows her stuff, that is for sure, behind the scenes. It was talked about with with Keenan and Andrea in regards to housing and how Andrea said it's not just housing, or it shouldn't be just units. There you see Ted McMeekin.
Ted McMeekin is ahead of Zovia Jawed, and he's expected to win. Although, look, she early again, but she's putting on a fight.
Units as opposed to housing. Housing where you have to put infrastructure, make it community, as opposed to units where you just want to throw stuff up.
Right.
There you see Maureen Wilson. Nice lead there over Ian McPherson. John Vale wrapping up in the third spot right now with 174 votes.
And it's very early, of course, so we'll see what happens. And look at Ward 2 right now. Cameron Crutch leading Jason Farr. And so we'll see if there's an upset there as well.
And, of course, Raquel was going after Councillor Farr quite hard during the debate.
So the issue of units, the issue is this. You need to house people, and whether you house them in single family or you house them in units, you need to find accommodations for them. So the answer isn't either or, it's and both.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And depending on who gets in, we will see if those units or houses or communities can be built in a proper amount of time. Nothing coming in for Ward 4 right now. Again, folks watching at home, numbers are trickling in right now very early on. We are an hour and 20 minutes behind based on a couple polls that were not able to close at the 8 o'clock deadline. They had to give the full 10 hours. There you see Mr. Matt Francis up on Linda Lukasik still.
And no information in Ward 6. And we will see whether Tom pulls off yet another win. And by how much? Really, that'll be the question there. And nothing from Ward 7 right now.
Let's talk about some of the open wards and the councillors that, as of effective, I guess, today or in the next couple days, will no longer be getting that City of Hamilton paycheck. Of course, Ward 4 Councillor Marula, Ward 5 Chad Collins, who's moved on to bigger and better things, Brenda Johnson, Lloyd Ferguson, and, of course, Terry Whitehead, along with Judy Partridge. Potentially bright careers still for them. They can kind of go and do whatever they might want. Have you heard any scuttlebutt out there about what some of these former councillors might do?
I've spoken to a few of them, and each seems to want to rest, first of all, and sort of recharge. But each has ambitions to do other things as well. And Craig Cassar is leading in Ancaster, as some say is expected. And again, look at Dundas, Ward 13. Alex Wilson is ahead of the incumbent there. In Ward 14, Kojo Dempsey early on is still leading and doing well.
And that's a close one right there. You know,
very close.
I live in the area. I see a ton of Mike Spadafora signs. So again, as we're just a few polls in, we will expect to see these numbers come up, folks. Ted McMeekin still up comfortably, and it looks like Maureen Wilson is sitting in a very favorable spot.
It looks as if Maureen is sitting in a very comfortable position as well.
And there we see some mayoral update numbers. Andrea Horvath now just over 9,400. Keenan down to 9,005. And Mr. Bertina now up to about 2,500.
And look at Ward 3, where it was thought that Narinder Nan might be in trouble. She's actually leading over Walter Furlan and Laura Farr. Eric Tuck in Ward 4 is leading Andrea Johnstone and Angelica Hapson, who I was told to keep an eye on. But Eric seems to be pulling ahead. Matt Francis again in Ward 5, same numbers as before, but he's comfortably ahead of Linda Lukasik at this point. And Tom Jackson, and there we go. Tom Jackson at 2021. You could pretty well call the election for him, I would think, at this point.
Are you surprised? Again, I know it's early on right now, but with Alex Johnstone not as high up right now. And we look at Eric Tuck, who was kind of considered, someone that might take this one away.
Yeah, and there's John Paul Danko, who's just here. He'll be pleased to see those numbers. He's well considerably ahead of the other candidates. And there's Brad Clark and Peter Lanza. And Peter had a strong campaign against Brad, but Brad is maintaining a lead at this point, although not a terribly comfortable one at this point.
And that's with...
And here we go.
Ward
Look
10.
at my ward, which is Ward 10. Look at Jeff Beattie has really jumped ahead of Louis Milojevic and the incumbent Maria Pearson. So we could see...
Surprising to you there?
Well, no, because it's been a hard-fought campaign with any of the three able to win, and it looks as if it's going to come down to the wire there.
There you see Ward 12. Chuck Elkerton was someone who was endorsed by former councillor Ferguson. Are those numbers surprising you at all?
No, because I think Craig ran a strong campaign, and he was thought to do very well there. These numbers have not moved in Ward 14 yet. We'll have to get an update to see if there's any change there. But there's Kojo Dempsey ahead. But look at this, the story of Zobia Jawed over the incumbent, you might say Ted McMeekin incumbent, not that he was on council last time, but he certainly is a well-known politician. She's not that far behind. You could pretty well call this a day here in Ward 1 as well.
And there you see also the tabulations and the polls reporting 22 of 246. And Cameron Kretsch is taking do we say almost a commanding lead?
I wouldn't say that. It's only 22 out of 246, but certainly a lead of any type is a good lead to have at this point. So we'll have to see how the percentages move going forward.
I'm a little surprised Laura Farr's numbers aren't up there a little further as well.
I'm really surprised by that. There is Eric Tuck, 22 polls again reporting. Matt Francis again 22 out of 246. And
you look at someone like Linda Lukasik, who has a name. She's known for her environmental backing and what she does. Do you think was it just maybe she didn't come out of the gate strong enough, or do you think the environmental thing maybe held her back? I don't know.
I don't know. She might have been seen as a single, and of course it's early, so she may still win. But she might have been seen as a single issue candidate. But she started strong, and I kept a close eye on that ward. She started strong. And then seemed to lose momentum there. So I'm not sure what happened to the campaign.
John Paul Danko well ahead right now in Ward 8. And again, these numbers with Clark, Lanza, and Naeem have not changed at this point. City Hall is starting to get a little busier. There you see Jeff Beattie, Larry, still holding on to that lead.
Jeff has got a very good lead at this point. I'm not sure. The number of polls isn't accurately reflected there, I don't think. But, a 500 vote lead there is a significant lead.
And in an election like this where there may be that apathy, every single vote is truly going to count.
Absolutely.
Not much change here in Ward 12. So, and actually, if anything, Chuck has actually bounced up the chart just slightly there.
A little bit, yeah.
We hope that those candidates who are successful in their bid to be part of City Council will be making their way down here to be part of not just our broadcast, but the other local media here. Ted McMeekin still standing strong right now at 561 votes. But again, still early in Ward 15.
I just got a a message about Ward 5, and it looks as if they're just waiting on the advanced polling, but I think the numbers are holding for Matt Francis.
And of course, nice shot there of not only Andrea Horvath, but also Keenan Loomis's headquarters, where one will be celebrating and one will be waking up tomorrow, maybe scratching their heads. When you put in so much effort and time, and you have your supporters, that next day, even the next week or so, it must be awfully draining for the candidate that does not reach the successful goal of becoming mayor.
Oh, well, you know.
Would you know anything about that?
I do know both sides of that equation. And let me tell you, it's more fun to win than it is to lose.
Of course.
But I think the exhaustion of the process, also at this point, people are just relieved that it's over and they want to know. And then they'll lick their wounds and they'll go on with their lives. And let's face it, both certainly Keenan is a young, bright man who has a future ahead of him, whether in politics or not, depending on how tonight goes. And Andrea as well has bright days ahead of her if things don't go well for her tonight. So we will have to see, but they will lick their wounds and wake up to a brand new day tomorrow.
I ran into Keenan, it was probably in June, so a couple months into his heavy campaigning and where he was, and I bumped into him late at night at a Ticats game as I believe him and his brother-in-law were leaving. And he looked tired, but he wasn't in campaign mode. I don't think he had his Ticats hat on. He wasn't wearing his lime green. But I saw Keenan. I go, at what point are you going to become too exhausted? And he looked me right in the eye. And he says, I can't afford not to be exhausted. I have to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's adrenaline keeps you going. The fear of losing keeps you going. The support of your team keeps you going. And, of course, the fact that you think you're the best person for the job absolutely keeps you going. That's what campaigns are all about.
There we see Jeff Beattie still ahead as more polls start to come in, Larry.
I'm okay. So here we go with just one poll reporting from Binbrook-Lambrook, Ward 11. And it looks as if Tattison was just 2 votes up on Nick Lowers. Way too early to form any opinions there.
One of those situations.
And here is Ward 12. It looks as if Cassar is increasing his lead.
And we can look at the mayoral race now,
and
where neck and
we are neck and neck. 12,763, and there's only a handful of votes separating the two. So that's the race to watch.
Definitely everyone on pins and needles in both campaign headquarters right now. I wonder if they're thinking, is there anything else we could have done? Did we do everything we could? Do you start to second guess yourself at this point when you are this close?
Absolutely. They're still in anticipatory mode at this point. And look, you can pretty well say that Alex Wilson is going to win in Dundas. Arlene, the incumbent, is 1,000 votes behind. And that isn't going to be a lead that's going to be easy to surmount. So they're still anticipating to win. They want to see all of those votes come in the various races. But at some point, the reality will sink in that they didn't do it this time, and then the analysis will come. If not tonight, it'll come in very short order.
So, Larry, at this point, if numbers were to hold true right now, we are looking at two incumbents not making their way back with Arlene and Maria Pearson if everything holds up as is. So we've gone from 7 to 9 new faces, which is over 50%, the change people were looking for.
And you've got a council, if you're looking at who's on the right, who's in the middle, who's on the left. You've got someone certainly on the environmental side, the left side.
And here we have another one.
And here's another situation where the incumbent is not doing as well as he would have wanted to do. And it's still early, and some votes need to be counted, but that's it. And there we go. We got a 41 vote lead, 17,690 just changed there. I missed the number. But neck and neck for the mayor's race, as was anticipated. Be interesting to see where those votes are, because they will tell the story.
And Larry, I'm just being told by my producers that Cable 14, we are going to be declaring Maureen Wilson the winner in Ward 1. So congratulations to Maureen, her team, on the work that they had to do over this campaign to get reelected.
And I would want to also congratulate the two individuals who ran against her to make democracy stronger. Certainly the young man who equipped himself well, and John Vale also, who was courageous enough to run against an incumbent who obviously had the strength and support of her ward.
And of course, we are talking about Ian McPherson, who came into our studios and was just a stand-up gentleman. And to Ian and John, with whatever your future holds, we wish you all the best. Maybe we'll see them in 4 more years. Who truly knows? There and we can see
Ward 5, Matt Francis.
Matt Francis.
You can pretty well call that race for Matt Francis. I'm told that he won every poll, and they're just waiting for the advance poll, and we'll see if that changes anything. I suspect it'll break in the same way. So congratulations to Matt if that number holds.
And there you see Maureen. Of course, Maureen was one of the ones, and if I'm choosing my words wrong, please, Maureen, let me know. But she is. She'd like to see some changes with the police budget as we move forward.
Yeah, she's one of the candidates who has talked about detasking the police in the debate that I watched on Cable 14. And she tried to say that it's the chief's idea, really. And so we'll see how that goes. There are a number of people on council who will probably share that opinion, and we'll see how that plays out.
First numbers coming in from Ward 7 here. Esther
Very
Pauls.
close. Esther Paul's ahead by 50 votes or so, 40 votes or so. And there's John Paul Danko. I think you can count him elected as well.
We will wait till I get official word when we get the little check mark next to them. And we also saw at the ticker at the bottom there, Andrea with a slight lead again over Keenan Loomis.
17,690 versus 17,539. That is as slim a lead as you will want to see. And again, it depends on where those votes are coming from. Keenan was supposed to be strong in the suburbs. And we just skipped over Ward 9, and it looks as if Brad Clark is maintaining his lead over a very strong challenge by Peter Lanza. And there's you can say that Jeff Beattie is going to be the new councillor in Ward 10.
If you're Bob Bertina right now, you're sitting in his campaign headquarters and you see that number. Let's give him a little plug over the amount of time that he has served this city, both municipally, provincially, and throughout the community as CHML broadcaster and voice of the Ticats for so many years. He, whether you like him or not, he truly has dedicated himself to this city.
There's absolutely no question about the fact that Bob Bertina loves Hamilton. And he has dedicated his life really to Hamilton, and this is a disappointing result for him. But maybe this was not the election that he should have run in, although he produced a decent platform and he tried his best. It just didn't work out.
Continuing to move on, we see Ward 12 rounding out. There you see Pamela Mitchell, who during the debate was very vocal about affordable housing and being able to get around with infrastructure, so on and so forth. And there you see Ward 13 as the lead continued to grow with Alex Wilson.
Yeah, he's not quite as much as last time, but he's still comfortably ahead. But look at Kojo Damti. 720 versus 533 for Mike Spadafora. Kojo may be the upset of the campaign if those numbers hold.
Ward 14 rounding it out with Brian Lewis, Christine Sakita, and of course Colleen Wicken, and of course Christopher Poole with 29 votes. We look at the element that Kojo Damti could potentially bring to this city council should he be successful.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he's the one that has the policies that are considerably out there, and there's John Paul Danko has just been declared by our decision desk as being elected, so congratulations to you, John Paul. But Kojo would certainly be a spark plug on council with different ideas. And we'll see how that race works out.
There we see John Paul Danko here in the gallery of the City Hall forecourt area. chatting with some supporters, and no doubt a bit of a relief for him. And there's
look at Cameron Crutch. I mean, that 500 votes is considerable in that ward. There may be an upset there as well.
And you know, Cameron Crutch has really he's been running for re-election since 2018.
Since
You
the
alluded to that.
He has not stopped, and his colleagues and friends have not stopped. And look at Narinder Nan, still early, but she's maintaining a good lead, and so there may not be an upset in that area at all.
And again, just goes to prove, you know, I was driving through Ward 3, just a couple streets worth on Friday night coming home from the Taika. I saw a lot more Furlan signs than I did Nan signs.
Look at this, Tammy Wang is closing in on Eric Tuck. Again, very early results. And Keenan just pulled ahead of Andrea. Look at that, 24,578. And I've lost Andrea's number, but he just pulled ahead of Andrea.
So no doubt a big cheer for Keenan's crew down there on Caroline Street. And again, I don't know if you would have asked us 4 or 5 months ago if this was even possible, but again, you put
There's
so much credit.
24,578 versus 24,238.
Yeah.
So that's a 300 vote lead, not insurmountable. But the momentum that he showed in chasing Andrea seems to be paying off. Matt France is comfortably ahead, and I think before too long we'll see a check mark next to his name, so congratulations, Matt.
What's the saying in sports? It's not how you started, it's how you finished.
It's how you finish.
So
it's
there you go.
How you finish. There's Mr. Ladner at 96 doing poorly. He worked in Paul Miller's office, and I know that Paul Miller went around knocking on some doors for him. It doesn't seem to be working out.
And there's the big board.
There's the big board. 24,578 versus 24,238. So that's a plurality of 340 votes or so.
Hey, he used to be a principal. He can do that a lot quicker.
But not math. I was English. I'm good at words, not necessarily numbers.
Yeah, so we continue on here, but still a nail biter. And, you know, I think when you look at those numbers, we also have to think about the city of Hamilton as a whole, and will enough voters come out? Because I think that will be a big number as well. What will our total voter turnout be? Something that was also talked about a lot.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the number is. You know, it's almost shameful, the low voter turnout in municipal elections, and provincial and federal, by the way. But municipal elections seem to attract the least attention by voters, and that's on us as citizens. We should turn out more. But maybe it speaks a little bit to the cynicisms as well. And there's Keenan with, as I said before, about 340 votes plurality at this point.
Close one here in Ward 7 still between Esther Pauls and Scott Duval, and of course John Paul Danko, who we had on here. We have already confirmed him the winner in Ward 8. Kudos to Sonia Brown and Anthony Frazina and the others for putting up a good fight over the last couple months.
Yeah. Indeed, and there's the various mayoralty candidates as well. Look at Ward 9. It looks as if Brad is pulling ahead, and Peter Lanza, I know, took the fight to him. Walter, according to one of the reporters, only ran to try to siphon some anti-Brad votes away from his main opponent. And there's Tom Jackson, who
you called it, Larry.
Yeah, who was going to steamroll, and there he is, the check mark next to Tom. Congratulations, Tom. I think is it 34 years that he's been in municipal politics? Something like that.
And how he doesn't have any gray hair, I don't.
I
don't
know
know
the secret to that.
Oh,
one.
you do.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, again, congratulations to Tom Jackson, and of course his campaign manager Grant McLean. They run everything like a well-oiled machine, and he's just the pro's pro when it comes to dealing with the politics and really kind of setting that bar for culture and respect around the Horseshoe and even during the Zoom meetings.
He is a smooth operator, knows his stuff. When Tom speaks, people should listen because he does his homework, and he does it well. And his voters reward him for that.
Ward 12 still undecided. At this point, there you see Cindy Kay.
Undecided, but Craig is maintaining a pretty strong lead, and that looks as if it's holding thus far.
A little tough to overcome that one, and here we go with potentially one of the bigger upsets of the night, Alex Wilson, who we should also say, he did take some time away from his full-time job.
Oh, look at this. The race is tightening. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
They're
No,
tightening
by all
in
means.
Ward 14. Spadafora is only 80 votes or so behind now.
Yeah.
Kojo Dempsey. So it may be the two of them that are vying for this seat.
If you need to and you want to hold hands throughout the rest of this, Larry, we can. No problem with that. But Alex Wilson, he took time out from his job. He does have some political contacts at the provincial side of things. So, yes, he's coming in new to City Hall, but he's not coming in new to politics as a whole.
No, he works for Sandy Shaw, who's been very successful in getting reelected twice. Obviously, he's learned from her, probably used some of her organizational advantages in that same area. And hey, all good, and we'll see what he does.
And why not? If it's there for you, why reinvent the wheel if you don't necessarily have to?
Yeah.
And of course, we've already announced Maureen Wilson as Ward 1 winner, and things are maybe not as close as I thought. Still about 500 votes between Cameron Kretsch and the incumbent Jason Farr.
Yeah, that is, at a ward race, 500 votes is difficult to overcome, but it's still early enough that it may. You never know. Narinder is coming out with a strong advantage at this point over Walter Furlan. And my friend Laura Farr is trailing. So we'll see what happens there, but it looks as if Narinder is going to retain her seat.
And, for Narinder, again, she has done what she needed to do going into this election. There you see Ward 4, Eric Tuck again with 560. She did what she needed to do. She was active on social media. She put out the call there, and there you see a live shot of the Keenan Loomis campaign. Maybe they'll give us a big cheer, and you can see things filling in. Of course, those bright green shirts, they have been able to be seen everywhere throughout the city of Hamilton in the last couple of weeks.
Indeed, and here's Ward 4. We missed, I guess it was Eric who was still leading there, but Tammy Huang is closing in on him, and that may be an interesting race to watch as well as things unfold. It looks as if Andrew, or at least Alex Johnstone, is not doing as well. And look at this now. Keenan is, is he about 1,000 votes ahead right now?
About 1,000 ahead, give or take. Yep.
Well, maybe not 1,000, maybe 600. Those numbers go by very, very quickly. But anyway, he seems to be increasing slightly his plurality, and he'll be pleased about that.
Ryan Ladner, Bob Hurst, rounding out Ward 5.
But in Ward 5, it looks as if Matt Francis has a commanding lead, and that is important. And Matt, or at least I think we have now some news from our trustees.
Yeah, we're going to take a short little break. We're going to throw it over to Tara and Jessica. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Mike. And it is a nail-biter in many races, and votes are slowly trickling in. Jessica, is there anything that you're highlighting right now?
Well, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I am rather concerned about some of the anti-woke candidates and the percentages they're getting. There may be one of them who, in fact, will get the win in wards 5 and 10, but I haven't seen any recent numbers there. Graham Noble, however, has won it. Well, looks like he will win in Ward 15. Paul Tutt in Ward 13. Not sure what is going on with 11 and 12 for the board. Unfortunately for me, Ahuna Mehdi does not look like she will win in Wards 8 and 14, and it looks like Becky Buck has won.
Well, there are some big numbers coming out for some of these candidates, and it can't be disputed. Not a lot of people vote when it comes to these elections, and if you have that backing, it's quite easy to stay in.
Well, and again, as I said earlier, this is a strategy from that movement, and for those of us who are concerned, it's not about this election, it's not even about next election, it's about how do we make sure that our people, progressive people who care about student-centered learning and in a forward way for 2022 and beyond, how do we get candidates around the school board tables then?
Oh, and it does look like Dawn Danko will be reelected, and in our discussion previously, she will be seeking the chair once again because there will be a lot of fresh faces on board.
Well, it would be up to the members of the board to
she'll
in
be
fact
seeking it. She'll be seeking
It'll
it.
be up to the members of the board to make that decision individually, and if enough individual votes come out as a majority, then Dawn would be chair. But having said that, Dawn, I think, has in the 2 years that she has been at the helm, she has had to stick handle, as we say, a lot of difficult issues, and I hope that she can continue, along with the new director of education, to make, again, the school board focused on school-centered learning.
You're being quite diplomatic when you say that. It was a bit of a dumpster fire for a little bit there on the public school board.
Well, it certainly was, and I think elections do give us an opportunity to discuss those challenges. It also gives some people the opportunity to step away from the school board table, and some of that, of course, has already happened, and that's good news, I would say. But yes, there is a reputation that this board needs to recover. The public school board needs to recover, and I'm hoping and I'm seeing some good people around the table to make that happen.
Well, you know, we're seeing in the general election, there's been a lot of talk about change, about fresh faces, and perhaps we will see some rejuvenation on the public school board.
Well, I see that, but again, there are some people. Ray Mulholland, of course, has been there for over 40 years. Looks like he's going to win again, and that's great for Ray. He cares a lot about what goes on in the schools. Again, though, as we move forward, we need to continuously look for other people to be involved.
Absolutely. All right, back to you, Mike.
Tara, thank you very much for that. Larry and I, we are getting texts and tweets left, right, galore. And there you see Hamilton City Hall about to see what potentially looks like a drastic change with many new faces. Now, one update that did come across our board when the two individuals were chatting, Jessica and Tara, was Kojo Damptey. Mike Spadafora took a very slim lead there as more polls come in, Larry.
Yeah, so Kojo was ahead in the early times, but it looks as if Mike Spadafora is bumping up. And look, this is not a good day for incumbents. It looks as if Jason Farr will go down in defeat to Cameron Crutch if these numbers hold. And that is an earthshake as well. Maria Pearson, an earthquake in the East End, an earthquake in the East End, an earthquake here. It looks as if Narinder is maintaining her lead and will retain, so there's an incumbent that will retain, along with John Paul Danko and Maureen Wilson, the three newcomers last time. It looks as if people haven't been angry with them to make any changes, but it looks as if the other incumbents who've been around for a while, with the exception of course, Tom Jackson, will not retain their seats. And Eric Tuck and Tammy Wang are in a fight. There's only less than 100 votes separating the two, or at least just over 100 votes separating the two. I think we can say that Matt Francis has been elected with 3,776 votes, doubling almost, in fact more than doubling what Linda has. Krista Boyer, third place with a respectable 1,135. And so we'll wait to see if the check mark goes there. And there's Tom with nearly 4,000 votes, way more than Chris Sly and Donna Pudu. And Tom retains his seat. He's worked very hard for his residents. I know I have relatives who live in that area and can say nothing but good things about Tom. So congratulations, Tom. And look at this. This is a nail-biter. Scott Duval and Esther Pauls. I was told that Esther out-hustled Scott and should retain her seat, but this is very, very close. And, of course, Scott was a councillor as well as an MP, very well-liked person, worked well at City Hall. And there's John Paul Danko. who's been declared elected with over 4,600 votes. Probably have one of the major or one of the greater pluralities in the whole race. And the mayor's position will come up as well, and it looks as if Brad is now at 2,800 versus 1,800. That's a 1,000 vote difference, and that seems comfortable enough to make Brad feel happy and Peter disappointed. And we will see Jeff Beattie coming in as I'm sure they haven't called it yet because Louis is at 3,300, but Jeff seems comfortably ahead. I don't know how many polls have to report yet, but there was a three-way race there, and Maria, who's been an incumbent for many, many years, and a very good counselor, my counselor, has gone down to defeat. And here's 40 votes separating Mark and Nick, and it looks like this is going to go down to the wire. And Nick Pellegrino, with 1,000 votes, is well behind in third place.
And Larry, as we continue on here, Maureen Wilson has just come in with her team, and of course her husband Terry Cook. I want to go to, there we see Chuck and Craig getting a little bit closer. I want to go back to Ward 2 while we're kind of rolling through these numbers here. Do you think that with Jason Farr making the decision to back away from his council seat to try to go up to the other levels of government potentially hurt him in this?
Yeah, that would not have helped him, it seems, with the voters, for sure. But in fact, it seems to be that change is in the air, and so consequently, the incumbents have fared poorly, with the exception of the three that I just mentioned.
And here we see Ward 14 with a flip-flop once again. Kojo Damptey just by a handful of votes, 11 to be exact, over Mike Spatafora. So this will definitely come right down to the wire. And I know Kojo was extremely busy and again out-hustled potentially on the door knocking on the final days.
Yeah, and that's a surprise, but Kojo is doing very, very well in Ward 14. Of course, they had that racist incident. Who knows if that played a part in some sympathy for him as well. But of course, it seems as if he's in for a fight, and it's too early to say how it's going to end up because it's so close. But he's doing very, very well, better than some people had predicted.
Yeah, and as we continue on here, City Hall is picking up ever so slightly. We are seeing some of the winners making their way in with their supporters, their husbands, you name it. And I believe we are getting ready. Oh, I think we're just going to wait another couple minutes here. As we look at the vote now, it's flipped one more time, Larry, with Andrea now ahead again of Keenan Loomis just by a few hundred votes. So again, back and forth in the mayoral race, back and forth in Ward 14. But boy, that mayoral race, those two places right now, man, oh man.
It is going down to the wire, and there's Ted McMeekin coming ahead in Ward 15 as well. And so that'll be interesting to see how that finishes up. But look at that, 44,113 versus 43,863 for Keenan. And people were predicting a very close race. And
they're getting it. They're
getting it for sure. It's a race.
And guess what? We have our very own Tara Kernali now with Councillor-elect from Ward 1, Maureen Wilson. Tara, take it away.
Thank you so much, Mike, and congratulations are to you, Ward 1, once again.
Thank you very much. My thanks to the residents of Ward 1 for putting their trust and confidence in me once again. Appreciate it very much.
You kind of ran away with it. No one didn't see that coming, I think. And you've done a lot for the community. And what do you have going forward for this term in council?
We worked hard. We went to every door at least twice since July in all kinds of weather. Moving forward, the residents of Ward 1 and actually beyond Ward 1 have told me very clearly they want to see a new tone and a new Hamilton, more civility, respect, full transparency. They're rejecting the old politics. They want to see strategic thinking, strategic planning, good actual fiscal management, They're concerned about affordable housing, and they need this community to get climate ready.
Okay. Now, while you've been elected, there are other races that are still in play. But with what you're seeing across the board, how are you feeling about council as it's shaping up?
I have to look at the other races, of course. I'm just hopeful. I know I kept on hearing that we're ready for a change. I heard that throughout all across Hamilton. You read it, you felt it. They want a new council, they want new leadership. They actually want leadership. And I'm thrilled. And I would like to take this occasion, please, to thank my mom and dad. And Dad, love you very much. And everyone who helped us get out this vote and have been working for this vote since early summer. Thank you very much.
Well, Councillor Wilson, again, congratulations. And we're going to throw back to you, Mike.
Dara, thank you very much for that. And again, congratulations, yes, to Ward 1 Councillor Maureen Wilson. There you see Andrea Horvath's headquarters.
She and Andrea is maintaining a very slight lead over Keenan Loomis. But my goodness, it's so close that it's not going to be easy to call until every last vote is counted.
You know, just listening to Maureen talk about there, I know people all have their different thoughts and views on councillors and whether you agree or disagree with them. The one thing that I truly do admire about Councillor Wilson is her cool, calm, respectful demeanor, even during times, Larry, when a lot of things were kind of being thrown at her. She never truly seemed to lose her cool, and I think she did put the communication of her community first. And there you see another upset, Larry. Ward 13, Cable 14 has confirmed Alex Wilson will be the new representative out in Dundas.
Indeed, and congratulations to Alex, who had a tremendous debate and worked very hard. And it looks as if in Ward 9, Brad Clark is retaining his lead again, 1,000 votes or so over second place Peter Lanza, and is expected to retain that seat as well. In Stony Creek, my ward, Jeff Beattie, who's a decent guy, former member of the school board, a businessman in Winona. The Beattie name is very well known there. He took the seat from Maria Pearson, and look at the fight continues in Ward 11. Mark Tadison, who's a retired elementary school principal, is just slightly ahead of Nick Flowers, who's a psychologist, by the way, as well as a social worker. Skills that probably would be good there. And in Ward 12, which is Ancaster, Craig Cassar is well ahead and likely will win that seat as well, which will be a huge difference to the residents of Ancaster also. And we continue with Ward 12. They had lots of people running there, of course, because there was no incumbent. Lloyd Ferguson did not run again. And we focus on the mayoralty, where at this point there's no change from the previous numbers. Andrea is still ahead slightly by 44,113 votes. And Alex Wilson.
Yep, there you see it, the big number.
Now he is declared the winner. Congratulations to him.
And another change here in Ward 14. Mike Spadafora
seems to have been gaining over Kojo Dempsey, who's coming in second. And we'll see what happens there. It's still a little too early to call, but he's doing what people expected, that he'd lead there. And Don Ross, who used to be on council, is doing fairly well, although in third place as well.
So we have 4 candidates declared by Cable 14 right now, and folks who are watching at home, we are going to be keeping our numbers scrolling and running all the way through the night, all the way to 9 a.m., and yes, Larry and I are going to be talking till 9 a.m. as well. No, I'm just kidding. You imagine doing an all-nighter here, Larry? When was the last time you pulled an all-nighter? I don't want to know.
University.
Not your poker night? No. So stick with Cable 14. We'll continue to post those numbers. Let your friends, family know about it. And if you're watching live, great. Thank you very much. And, of course, you can go to cable14.com. Again, Cameron Kretsch, not just yet, but I think any minute now we will probably be able to declare him the winner in Ward 2, followed by Robin McKee and Sahara Aaron there. And Andrea, Slightly ahead now again by just over 300 votes, give or take. Narinder Nan.
Wow.
27-55 over Walter Furlan. And that campaign got a little nasty at times. And it started, I think, at the debate when Narinder Nan was asking Walter a straight up yes or no question that he would not answer. Not that he couldn't, he would not answer with a simple yes or no.
And there's Eric Tuck in a race with Tammy Huang. And it looks as if he's holding that. Oh, wait a second. Some numbers just changed there, but they left right away, so I wasn't able to see. It almost looked as if in the latest numbers, Tammy was actually ahead of Eric.
So as we continue on, are you surprised to see Max Francis not doing as well as a lot of people thought with his name recognition and the true Hamiltonian brand?
I am a little surprised, and Max is a good man, a nice man, a contributor in the community, and I'm sure he'll land on his feet. But yeah, I'm a little surprised he's not doing better. But look at this, Matt Francis. Now there's a Max Francis in 4, Matt Francis in 5, and it looks as if Matt has won. And Matt was an employee here at City Hall, so he knows his way around this place. And although not given the green mark yet, congratulations to Matt.
So again, Matt being able to bring some of that experience.
47,011 votes. I missed Keenan's vote in the mayor's race, but that continues to be very close. And there we go.
There we go again. Yep.
Oh, with 46,577. So what's that, over about 400 votes or so, or less than that, ahead by Andrea. It continues to be a very close race, with Andrea maintaining a sliver of a lead.
And again, we still have a number of polls that have to come in, so buckle in, folks. We will continue to bring you the numbers. And there you have Esther Pauls taking a slight lead over Scott.
Yep, very close, 1327 to 1282. And of course, we've declared Maureen Wilson the winner as well. And
so if we start to look here, we have Ward 1, which will remain the same. Ward 2 looks like it's going to be changing. Ward 3, potentially at this point, is going to be staying the same with Narinder. Ward 4 and 5, you look at that downtown core, and there we see Maureen with the 56-48.
Yeah. 4 and 5 different because the incumbents did not run again. 6, Tom Jackson retains. 7, up in the air. 8, the incumbent retains. 9, the incumbent seems to be retaining. 10, upset, new person in. 11, it's going to be a new person because the incumbent's not there. 12, it looks as if a new person because the incumbent's not there. And look at here. Tammy Wang has now overtaken Eric Tuck and is leading by 1,584 votes versus 1,392. Tammy has a very, very good resume. Alex Johnstone is doing poorly, but Tammy has a good resume, very smart.
And she has a strong affiliation with that ward, with her family there. She talked a lot about that during the debate, how she and her family have really built their name. I think it was a convenience store that they owned at one point, or maybe still do. And again, her background with City Hall, knowing how things work here, could prove to be very beneficial in Ward 4.
And in fact, diversity, there you go. Matt Francis has just been declared in Ward 5. Congratulations officially, Matt. But diversity seems to be increasing as well in around the Horseshoe. With Tammy Wang, of course, Narinder retaining her seat. And Kojo still in the fight. So we might see a number of changes there.
Let's look into our crystal ball at Ward 6 here. Another 4 years from now, if we're sitting here, do we see Tom Jackson? Is there anyone in Ward 6 that can truly take him down as an elected official at this point?
You know what? If Tom has as good a term as he has had in the past, nobody can take him down. Tom is indestructible politically.
So Tom will basically write his own goodbye.
Exactly. But Tom may say in 4 years' time, it's time to turn the page. We'll have to wait and see.
John Paul Danko, as we mentioned earlier, has been declared over Sonia Brown. And again, I know your good friend Anthony Frazina has done wonders for this city in regards to educating people about accessibility. Brad Clark still holding strong there at 27.99. That number hasn't changed in a while. And it looks like he may be the winner. There was some notes coming out. We saw a lot of this over the last few weeks, or last few days, I should say, Larry, with signs being stolen. I know Brad's put out a few messages regarding that as well.
As have other
of course,
or
of
police
course.
candidates.
Another
as well.
surprise here, Maria
Wow.
Pearson.
Maria coming in third. I mean, the surprise isn't that one of the others won, but that Maria came in third really speaks to the fact that people in Ward 10, which is the ward I live in, wanted to see a change.
And of course, a rematch from 2018 when
exactly.
it was the same three candidates.
Same three candidates, but the order has been reversed. I think Louis kept a second place, but the others have not. And here we go with, Ward 11. Mark Tattison. Nick Flowers was actually endorsed by Brenda Johnson, the previous councillor there, and he still very much is in the race, and we'll see what happens. There's only 100 or so votes separating the two.
And of course, we did have an update coming in there. You see Craig out in Ward 12 there, almost pulling away at this point, I would say, Larry.
Yes, indeed. I think Craig at this point is unstoppable and should be congratulated, although not officially.
There will be a new mayor in Haldeman, Larry. Shelley Ann Bentley has overcome Jake Vandenhoek. And the current mayor, well, I guess former at this point now, in third place, Ken Hewitt. So he dropped all the way down to third. So congratulations to Shelley Ann Bentley.
There you go. Another change and another situation. Look at how close this is in Ward 14. 2,559 versus 2,466, which is, 100 and so votes difference between the two. And so this is going to go down to the wire as well.
You look at some of these campaigns, and I'm looking at this one because of Kojo and seeing him on social media. He had a very strong social media game, whereas Mike didn't as much. And there you see
look
Ted
at the
McMeekin.
mayoralty. Sorry, 47,000 versus
46.
46, still close, but I think Andrea is maintaining a 500 or so vote lead at this point.
Starting to pull
and
away.
Towards the end. That makes a difference because, of course, fewer polls to report. So 47,011 versus 46,500 or so. So about a 500 vote lead there.
And of course, all the earlier
Andrea.
votes that were coming in, Larry. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
No.
All the earlier votes that were coming in were the advanced polls. So now these are the true numbers that have been coming in
as of today.
Between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 9:20 p.m.
We still don't know where they're coming from, though, right? 167 of 246 polls reporting. So there's still lots of votes out there, and they can change those numbers dramatically.
And of course, that breakdown, once everything is said and done, I think is always fascinating when political pundits like to break apart and analyze who won where and the reasons why. There you see the City Hall going to have a new look starting November, middle of November.
And look, there's a change yet again, 48,876 for Keenan, 49,502 for Andrea. Mm-hmm. And it looks as if he's again closing the gap a little bit.
And there we see the folks at Andrea Horvath's headquarters, no doubt at some point hoping to erupt in celebration. And of course, just around the corner as we come back live here to City Hall, Keenan's crew is also hoping for that same thing. Cameron Kretsch, there you saw him over Jason Farr, still has not been declared at this point, but getting awfully close to it. Robin McKee, of course, with the Hamilton Spectator and Stories in the Stone. Narinder Nan, looks like she's got a comfortable lead now over Mr. Furlan.
She's got a very comfortable lead. I mean, it's over 1,000 votes, 1,200 votes in a ward, by the way. That doesn't see a lot of voter turnout usually, so that's very comfortable. If I were her, I'd be feeling pretty good about that.
Continuing to move on, there you see Tammy's now
pulling ahead. Look, 300 votes or so over Eric, and that again is considerable. Don't know how many votes or how many polls to respond. at this point, but there's Max Francis at 525, and that is, I'm sure, disappointing for him, as well as Mr. Oldfield there as well, who's a real character and a contributor to the community also.
Continuing on, Robert Paris, 130. Robert has already said he will be running in the next election. So, hey, kudos to you, Mr. Paris, for doing that. And again, we look here, Krista Boyer has given back so much to this community. Linda Lucas, again, they will both land on their feet.
They absolutely will.
And perhaps be able to give back in another way.
Linda would have been a really interesting counselor around that table. She's a very bright lady. I think the fact that she is so closely tied to the one issue might have cost her a little bit. I don't know.
And perhaps can Linda do more? I think this question was talked about earlier in the election. Can you do more outside of City Hall than you can inside City Hall?
Well, she certainly has gotten lots of accomplished. I mean, she started Environment Hamilton. She won a lawsuit against the region back in the day, used that money to start that organization rather than pocketing it. And so she has a lot to be proud of, but it doesn't look like she's going to be, she's not going to be on council this term anyway.
And there we see nothing has changed with the mayoral race at this point. The lower third of your graphics, Esther Pauls, Scott Duval, still maintaining status quo from last time we went through the ribbon here.
There to see what's happening there. And of course, John Paul Danko, as we said, has been elected already. That was expected perhaps. Those are some of the minor candidates, or at least they've received minor votes in that particular race.
So
and there's Andrea at 49,502 versus 48,876. Still about a 700 or so vote lead for Andrea at this point.
Larry, I was told while you were chatting there, whispered in my ear from one of our great producers, Brenda Nicolau, 29% voter turnout to this point, with 129,000 ballots counted to this point. Obviously more to come, but that is what our election turnout is just over an hour into the polls officially being released.
Yeah, and that is so sad. 29% of the people, fewer than a third of our residents. And look at this, the race, 51,048 versus 49. So it looks like Andrea is expanding her lead a little bit.
And with these numbers that we just talked about, with this voter apathy and not coming out, 2,000 votes, 600 votes, whatever, that might just be enough to win it for such a prestigious seat here at City Hall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the lesson really is that we need to do better as a community to vote, to express our desires, because, tomorrow we're going to have a council that's going to be elected by a minority of people in the community. And it doesn't take away from their legitimacy, of course, but it does take away from the strength, the democratic strength that we should be showing at this time.
So, Larry, with that said, does that responsibility fall on this council? Does it fall on responsibility of senior management here at City Hall? How do we get the voter turnout? I know we got 4 years to think about it. People won't care right now, but any ideas?
You know what? The responsibility falls on our shoulders. City Council can only do so much. The organizations of democracy can only do so much. But if we choose not to vote, and I did some door knocking, and I encountered people who said, I've never voted in my life, I'm not going to start now. And when you ask them why, they are cynical. They are cynical about whom you elect. It doesn't make a difference. Whoever gets in there always does nothing for me, is the attitude. And somehow we have to turn that around.
Little surprised at this point with a number of candidates already being declared, and we're seeing some also leading at this point. City Hall isn't as busy as I've seen it in the past. Perhaps parties and campaign headquarters will start making their way down soon. If you're watching, come on down here. We'd love to talk to you.
In the old days, all the candidates would come to City Hall, not only to of course, with their team to show that they're interested, and certainly winning candidates would come, as well as others as well, but also to get some airtime on television.
Sure.
We'll invite them on and talk directly to voters who are watching them. But I don't know, maybe social media is what's doing it for them, or other reasons perhaps, but that's a shame because it certainly makes it for a tamer night around this horseshoe.
You mentioned back in the day, was that horse and buggy times?
Yes, almost.
Almost. There we see Tammy Wang in Ward 4 now, Larry.
She's pulled ahead
really
by 300 votes.
Pulling
That's pretty
ahead.
strong.
And again, Alex Johnstone, and I know she had so much support from David Christofferson, obviously not enough to push her over the edge.
Yeah. Adam's doing poorly. Max is not as well. Angelica Hapson not.
I'm going to start asking you to throw a loonie every time in the jar, every time you mix Max and Matt up, okay? I can retire on that.
Imagine if they'd both gotten elected.
Well, you could have had 2 Francises and 2 Favres. How crazy would that have been, right?
You could have.
And there we see Ward 12, Cable 14 has declared Craig Kassar the winner with 4,398 votes. So congratulations to Craig, again, who had a very strong campaign. So many people thought Chuck Elkerton was maybe going to be the guy, but Craig just came out social media-wise, pounding the pavement-wise, sign-wise, getting his message out.
Yeah, Craig, I was at the Ancaster Fair, and he had a booth there, of course, and people were going there talking to him. I didn't see any other candidates. Now, they may have been there elsewhere. I saw Andrea's booth there and Bob Bertina, but he was there right at the entrance, very visible, and he ran a strong campaign, so he deserves the win.
Shaking hands, kissing babies. That's kind of what you have to do, especially around this time of year with all the fall fairs and everything that's going on.
That's the staple.
That's
and
right.
There we go, 51,048 versus 49,975. So 51 versus 50,000, more than 1,000 votes, unless I got my arithmetic wrong, which is pretty strong for Andrea at this point. Still many votes to be counted yet. But being in the lead is positive for her at this point.
Nothing's changed there with Scott and Esther. And, of course, we've talked already about John Paul Danko, Sonia Brown, Anthony Frazina, and the rest of the fine folks in Ward 8. Let's just give them their due. Joshua Krasinga and also Danielle Veltri. So congratulations, again, just for putting your name on the ballot, putting it out there. No change here in Ward 9 either at this point, Larry, with Brad Clark.
No change, but look, Brad is maintaining his plurality, and I think it's a matter of time.
Well, just knew it. Well, he tried, but he didn't know if he was going to win or not. So 271 votes sitting for him. But again, putting his name out there.
He didn't do anything. He didn't campaign, apparently, according to one of the reporters. He did no campaigning other than put his name forward.
It makes me wonder why, as a candidate, you would do that. You would throw down your $100 or whatever and then not do a thing. Is it simply just to split a vote, maybe?
Well, our friend Kevin Werner said that in one of his columns, that he ran because Brad was his, high school friend. So that seemed to suggest that, but I don't know.
Officially declared in Ward 3, Cameron Kretsch
is elected. Way to go, Cameron. He's been working 4 years at it. Let's see what he can do now.
And again, lots of things that he would like to see changed. We know where his stance is in regards to encampments and the culture here at City Hall and how things should be done. Again, he's not going to be able to do it all in the first week, month, or potentially even the year. It's going to be a process. And, I think we should say thank you very much to former Councillor now, Jason Farr, for the work that he has done to this community.
Listen, Jason did a great job, I think, as a councillor, revitalizing the downtown. Stood against encampments. I don't think people want encampments. We seem to have now a councillor-elect and others who are in favor of that.
Narinder Nan.
Narinder was just declared elected. Congratulations to Narinder. There was a thought that maybe was going to be an upset there, but she retained her seat very strongly. And so we're going to see the challenges downtown. We're going to see if residents remain happy with some of the social issues that always confront themselves.
Not only the social issues, but it's also one of our biggest wards, if not the biggest. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And it's downtown.
And it is downtown, where we have a lot of movers and shakers, and the business development team, where Cameron is going to have to build those relationships that Councillor Farr had for so many years.
Yeah, and he seems like a bright enough man, and he's up for the challenge, I hope, and we'll see. He's been given the go-ahead by his residents to now be part of the decision-making group. Let's see if that helps.
So we're currently waiting on wards 4, and there you see Ward 15. I think at this point it's fairly safe to say that Ted McMeekin, I have to say I was so impressed with Ted during the debates, how, again, a true professional, how he handled himself. And he will bring, I think, that level, along with Maureen, of just being cool, calm, and collected.
Well, and Ted has loads of experience.
Oh.
He's a diplomat, and
and connections.
Even though his policies are certainly left of center and has some ideas around tiny homes and so on, he will be the rational voice around that table of experience, along with Tom Jackson. Really, it'll be the two of them who will have the experience, along with Andrea, if she maintains her lead and gets elected.
Looks like she's just about 900 votes ahead at this point, give or take, as we are an hour and about 20 minutes into when the polls were officially released to the fine constituents here at the City of Hamilton. Of course, we're going to be having the numbers running, Larry, all night.
It's about 1,000. It's about 900 votes difference between the two, and that's significant at this late stage, although not insurmountable.
And again, Tammy has run a fantastic campaign. There you see Andrea Horvath's headquarters down at the Spice Factory at 131 Houston Street. Marchand, Kennedy, Taylor. Again, I was actually quite impressed with candidate Marchand, Larry, in regards to how she came across. But again, possibly name recognition just wasn't there. There you see the Loomis headquarters right now. Difference in setting right now. You got the Horvath ones. They're all standing up, kind of smiling and all that, and pretty low key here right now at the Loomis headquarters. And we see looks like Brad Clark has now made his way down here to Hamilton City Hall, so we hope that we will grab him for an interview and get his thoughts on this election and moving forward. And I think for some of these incumbents, going to have to start to forge new relationships, because as we all know, and I've said this, there's politics behind the politics, Larry.
Well, it's a new team, and Brad will be another one of the councillors with experience who is going to have to anchor until the new people learn the ropes, anchor processes, as well as help in the decision making. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
And I think that, they'll be able to lean on a Maureen Wilson and a Narinder Nan and John Paul Danko, and of course, as we alluded to earlier, Ward 6 Councillor Tom Jackson. So, yes, some new faces, but I do believe there will also be a lot of support for each of them to really hit the ground running and understand what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've got three people that you mentioned in their second term. You've got experienced individuals in Tom Jackson and indeed Brad Clark and Ted McMeekin, although not on this council, but certainly lots of political experience. And you have a whole bunch of new people with new ideas. It's actually going to be a very exciting council to watch over the next number of months. Will they make mistakes? Yes, guaranteed they'll make mistakes. But in fact, they're going to also provide some interesting times for the City of Hamilton.
As we continue on here with just over 1,300 votes, Esther Paul, Scott Duval still pretty tight, and it is a pleasure now to welcome joining us here from Ward 10.
Ward 9.
Ward 9, not officially. I see I'm already changing wards on you, Brad. Haven't been declared officially yet, but boy, you are oh so close. Congratulations on this campaign. What stood out for you, sir, on this?
It was nasty. It was a nasty campaign. Started out very well, and then it became nasty with lots of innuendo, gossip, rumors, and things that it was unnecessary. It could have been a much cleaner campaign. And then this morning I woke up and all my election signs are gone.
Yeah,
so
I saw
have
that.
to thank them because now I don't have to clean them up.
They may be on your driveway.
I was going to say.
But Brad, so I saw that this morning, and
Yep.
of course I saw that from a couple of the other councillors as well.
Yes.
Who complained about. I mean, 'twas ever thus. Election signs go, but you seem to suggest that yours, every single one was gone.
It was remarkable.
And you also indicated that there's some footage of people doing that?
Yes, we have some tapes that we're handing over to the police and let them deal with it.
But other than that, the nasty side of it, this is going to be a different council.
Certainly is.
And you know, the mayor's race is still to be decided, and
Yes.
it looks very close between
wow.
Andrea and yeah, she's maintaining a bit of a lead, but still slim enough to be overturned. But you're going to have a lot of brand new people, some stalwarts: Maria Pearson, Jason Farr, Arlene Vanderbeek. Some people with experience. You're going to have a whole bunch of new people who are going to be excited to be there, but they don't know the washroom and where it is just yet. They'll learn. How are you going to handle that? What kind of hand-holding are you expecting for there to be?
My office is always open, as you know, in terms of offering advice and assisting people. It is a little bit more complex than people realize out in the community because we have a lot of policies and procedures that a council has to follow. Doesn't mean you can't change those policies and procedures, but you need to know where they are, to Larry's point. So it's a pro that you say they got to find the washroom first. Yeah, but I think they're smart, they're bright, they'll pick it up quick. I have no doubt, and it'll be, I think, a good council.
So to follow, just quick, if you don't mind, Larry,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
just to follow up on that, Brad. Words of advice to these new councillors right off the go here on Cable 14.
Don't get overwhelmed. The worst thing that you can do as a councillor, I don't care what is get overwhelmed. You'll see your desk pile up with documents that you have to read, emails that you have to read. Just take a deep breath and continue working through the process and stay ahead of it.
And watch what you say on social media.
I remember Bernie Morelli, when we were elected to the new amalgamated city, he said to me, it was late at night and our offices were next to each other. He peeked in and he said, "When are you going home?" I said, "Well, as soon as I finish this." He said, "I can tell you it's never going to be finished. At some point you have to go home.
Yep.
You have to look after yourself so that you can deal with issues rather than be overwhelmed by them," to your point.
Yeah.
And that's very, very good advice. We are going to have a new mayor, regardless of whether Andrea wins or Keenan wins. What kind of direction are you hoping from the mayor, whoever it happens to be?
My hope is that it will be collaborative, that they'll sit down with the councillors, discuss what the councillors are hoping to achieve in their wards, and then see where we can find some commonality so that we can get the ball rolling quickly. I have faith that they're going to do that type of thing.
Excellent. Excellent advice.
Yeah, great advice. And as we continue to move forward here with some of the numbers here, some people would say this council is going to go way to the left now.
Oh, my God. Yes. Some of us would say that.
Your thoughts on that, Brad, and how you kind of keep them focused and create that forging, if you will, so they all do work together, so we don't see some of these long 14, 15, 16-hour council meetings potentially.
I have no guarantee that there aren't going to be those long meetings. It does happen. Larry knows this all too well. I think I try not to think of the council as being left or right, that each issue we tackle and we do to our best of our abilities and make a decision. In the end, the pundits, like my friend to the right, will judge that and say, okay, that policy went to the left, that policy went to the right. I think there's going to be a lot of that, but in the end, when you look at it, if it's collaborative, it will be what the residents of Hamilton want, which is all we want to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Brad, I'm being told we have to move on. But again, congratulations. Sit down. You got a minute here. We'll throw over to.
I was actually going to congratulate him and ask him to stop by my car. There's a whole bunch of his signs in my trunk.
You're the culprit. We'll get you on video. Here's Tara Cronally and Jessica Brennan.
Thank you so much, Mike. So I guess most of these races, while we are not going to be calling them, we see the numbers progressing, but there are two races in particular in the public ward that are kind of concerning, well, very concerning. Yes. We've got wards 5 and 10. We've got Todd White and Marie Marcia Jackson. Yes, there are more than 400 votes, I think, between them, but we can't say one way or the other. Do you have an issue with that one?
Well, Jackson, again, is an anti-woke candidate, and even though Nancy Silva Khan got endorsements from the Labour Council and from Equity Network, she's certainly in third or fourth place, I believe, in this ward now. How much more does Jackson need to overtake White? Would be my question and concern, and we'll have to probably wait to the end of the evening to get the conclusion on that one.
Yeah, we can't count our chickens, right? So, and then in Ward 15, we've got Graham Noble versus Catherine Cronus, and Catherine Cronus was the public face of the anti-woke movement, and she's got over 2,200 votes. So I don't know what that says about perhaps the ward or just the movement in itself.
It actually might say a lot about both. It does indicate that, at least at this stage, it looks like Graham made the right decision for the board in a way to move from Ward 1, which is what he was originally going to run in, and then to move to Ward 15 to run. If he can stave off Cronus, then it was a good strategic move to have his sensitivities and expertise around the board table, rather than a stop woke candidate who will find ways to disrupt the procedures and processes of the board.
Well, it looks like, as we were speaking to Dawn Danko earlier, the former chair, she will try again for chair. She may have some interesting people around the table. I'm hoping, though, that democracy prevails, and one way or the other, whoever got the most votes is going to win.
That's a very good point. I absolutely agree.
That's about it.
The issue with this, at least the public school board, is that year by year, the chair is newly elected. It might be the same person who had been there before, but it has been in the past sort of not carried over as a rotation, but rather a sense of sharing it in a collegial way, or just like perhaps an academic department might do it. That isn't always the case, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, we will see. Thank you so much for watching. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, ladies. Do appreciate it. Good update there. And our producer, James, just came by with an update as well regarding Mr. Todd White. Larry.
Yes, I am so pleased about that. Todd White was chair of the board. And an excellent, I thought, chair of the board as well, and a contributor. And he got a bum deal, I thought, 4 years ago when he lost. It was a very nasty campaign, and now he's been reelected, so I'm very pleased for that. He'll be a steady hand at the board.
Tammy Wang moving ahead here. Sorry, Larry.
It looks as if Tammy is consolidating her lead and maybe elected in Ward 4 to replace Sam Marula.
Matt Francis, as we talked about, taking over from not just Chad Collins, but also, of course, Russ Powers, who filled in very nicely during his short stint here.
Well, we're going to debate that.
Oh, we can debate that? Okay.
But
we got time, let's...
No, he's going to be there for sure. And here's Esther Pauls, whose campaign has expressed some frustration to me on text, that the results in her area are coming in very, very slowly. And I don't understand that. I don't understand when a computer, all you have to do is push a button and it spits out numbers that they're not out yet. So I appreciate her concern. There's the mayor's, Brad, of course, has been reelected, but the mayor's race is still about 1,000 votes in Andrea's favor.
And again, as we get later into the night, that 1,000 votes, if you are the Loomis campaign, you might start to get some sweaty palms.
Looms, pardon the pun, larger for sure, because, of course, fewer votes are to come in that might change that. So we'll still, it's not insurmountable, but we'll see how that works out. And there we have Jeff Beattie. He hasn't been declared elected yet. That's unbelievable. And here in Ward 11, things are trickling in as well. There's only a 70 vote difference between Nick and Mark. So we'll have to wait to see until the end how that works out. But for sure, that's the nail biter too.
And when you get out into Ward 11, there we mentioned.
And there we go.
Craig
There's a new number with the mayor's race, 53,287 versus 52,126. So it's over 1,000 votes now. So it looks as if Andrea at this stage is widening her lead a little bit, which would cause the Loomis campaign to be a little concerned. And here is maybe not the surprise of the night, but tomorrow when people in Dundas and Ward 13 wake up, they're going to have a new councillor. Alex Wilson has beaten the incumbent Arlene Vanderbeek, who not only, by the way, was an incumbent this time, but she dates back to pre-amalgamation days. Was a councillor in Dundas, and she lost. And although her number is respectable, she lost by quite a bit. And here in Ward 14, again, the results are just trickling in. Mike is maintaining a sliver of a lead over Kojo. Don Ross respectable, but third. And that race may change yet again.
Larry, let's talk a little bit about Mike as we're going to go into Ward 15 and then go do the loop again. You know, Kojo has been a lightning rod with social media and so on and so forth. Mike Spadafora has run a very quiet campaign. Yet, what does that say about Ward 14 that they're looking to have, Mike come ahead of Kojo, someone who's been pretty low-key and quiet?
Well, neither of them apparently live in the ward, so that's one of the factors. Although I understand Mike will. The other, of course, is the fact that Kojo has some extreme policies, at least extreme to people like me, where not only does he want to defund the police, he's advocated for abolishing the police. And that's a concern. And yet he's doing so well. So people take to him. He's a very personable, I've interviewed him on my show, a very personable, very smart individual, very creative individual, and he preaches inclusivity. And that is a refrain that I think people are attracted to. We want to see people included in decision making. We just don't want to see policies that are going to be harmful to us. And so, that's the balance I think that voters in Ward 14 have to deal with, as well as the trauma of having to watch what happened with Terry Whitehead and so on, and the upsetting situations there.
And of course, when we talk about Ward 14, any of these wards, really, Larry, we're going to be digesting the numbers and breaking them down. Ted McMeekin has officially been declared winner of Ward 14. Congratulations to Ted, who's going to bring oodles and oodles of experience, connections, contacts, and again, being able to, even though he's not an incumbent, people will be able to lean on him he can show the ropes.
Well, I mean, Ted is actually a treasure in our community, and congratulations to him. He will provide stability, and he's a diplomat at the end of the day, and he'll help the mayor, whoever it happens to be, negotiate some issues. Now, Keenan was going to make him the housing czar. I'm not sure what that means, really, but a prominent position in terms of housing. The issue still remains. If Andrea is elected rather than Keenan, I'm sure she'll use his expertise in that area as well.
Well, we currently have 8 seats declared, 7 more to go, and the night will continue on. There you see Cameron Kretsch and, of course, Robin McKee and Sahar Aaron rounding things out, Shahan, I should say, throughout the rest of Ward 2. Larry, as we continue to look now and we see these 7 new faces that are here.
Can I just make a comment on Narinder?
Yeah, please.
She won handily. If you drove through that ward, as I did, you saw furland signs everywhere. And so the old adage that signs don't vote, certainly that election in that ward proved that. Good support for Narinder, good attempt by Walter, but it needed more than just signs to resonate with the voters, obviously.
There was talk about, lies coming out from the Ferland camp and things just simply not happening. Do you think that's what held with majority of the voters?
I'm not familiar with that. Lies about?
There were lies, or he was pushing people to certain restaurants to get free food, so on and so forth. It was on social media. I'm just wondering if maybe those are some things that maybe caught up with him, or maybe they were planted. Who truly knows? But I'm just saying.
I didn't see any of that. I didn't follow that, but.
You're not on social media? You're not
well,
on
I
Twitter?
am on social media, but I don't follow everything on social media. But the last thing I believe is anything on social media.
Oh, there we see.
So there we go. Andrea is now up by 56,402 votes versus 54,807. So that's a plurality of about what, 2,000, 1,500 votes or so. That is fairly strong.
And yet still far behind what Mayor Eisenberger won with 4 years ago with around 70. So I know we still are waiting for some more polls. But again, it goes to show you that the voters' turnout still wasn't that strong.
Yeah, 29% is shameful. Yes, I mean, Andrea is ahead, but it's not an insurmountable lead. The thing to watch, though, is the percentage increment. She seems to be keeping the percentage as we move along. And so if that percentage doesn't change, the rest of the votes will follow that pattern. And so if I were Andrea, I'd be feeling not out of the woods, but I'd be feeling pretty comfortable.
Well, I can tell you, it was just whispered in my ear, Larry, that the percentage has gone up slightly. We're now at 33.7%.
Okay, that's in terms of the vote.
Voter
not for
turnout,
Andrea, but
yes.
in terms of voter turnout.
In total.
Yeah, and that is good. Somebody in the studio should do a percentage of votes for Andrea and Keenan, and that would help us sort of see the increments coming up. If they could whisper that in our ear, that would be helpful.
Yeah, and they have been doing that. So thank you very much to our producer, Brendan Nicolau, for that. As we... Oh, I'm just being told. Yep. Andrea, we're being told, is at 41.7% of the vote right now.
And Keenan?
40.5 for Keenan. So, hey, live TV, we're getting math, and everyone's working as a team here. So 41.7 to 40.5. Boy, that is razor thin.
So, yeah, very razor thin. But we will see when the next updated numbers come up, if that 1% plurality stays or comes down. That'll tell us the pattern that's being set as more votes are counted.
Continuing on, Ijaz, but again, Ijaz actually just a few days ago put all of his support behind Keenan on a social media post on Twitter. Yes, he did, saying that he was going to support. That was after they had a quick little debate, I shouldn't say quick little, but a debate down at McMaster University.
Keenan would love to have those 1,500 votes or however many he's got over into his ledger right about now.
Certainly would.
Yeah.
Certainly would.
Yeah.
You continue to look on here. We are when we talk about this change. We talk about this change, Larry. You've been in this game a lot longer than I have and know a lot more than I do regarding the politics here in Hamilton. Should Hamiltonians feel good about what they're seeing right now?
Well, yeah, we're electing a government. Of course, they should feel good about that. There's both a catharsis and an anticipation in terms of electing new leaders and giving them a fresh mandate. Of course, they should feel good about that. What they should feel bad about is the low voter turnout. Even 33% isn't a great. That's a third of the people in the city who could vote have gone out to vote. Now, it's not the problem. With the people who are watching this debate, those are the ones who actually voted.
Right.
But it's our neighbors and our friends sometimes, and even relatives who have not. And here we go, an update now. They must have heard our issue around Ward 7. And it's still close, but Esther is maintaining a nice lead over Scott Duval. And if that continues, Esther will be returned as an incumbent.
And I can only imagine behind the scenes, Andrea Holland, she has her team. Yes, they had their delays. Numbers are coming out. But I also can only assume they want to make sure the numbers are coming out. They're coming out right. Like, I don't think it's just as easy as hitting submit and everything just keeps falling out.
It is to me.
Is it that easy? Okay, fair enough.
But of course it cannot be that. No, I don't think they're trying to delay things just for the sake of delaying it. And there again is Ward 11. Okay, you did it for Ward 7. Now do it for Ward 11. Give us an update there to see what's happening, because those numbers seem awfully low still at this point.
Craig's going to have his work cut out for him. Some big shoes to fill with Councillor Lloyd Ferguson.
Yeah, Craig. He seems like a smart guy. I had a chat with him at the Ancaster Fair. He seems on top of things. Seems very personable. He's got a very good resume. Is certainly ideologically bent, but people have voted for him. So we'll see what happens.
No new update with Spadafora and Damptey at this point.
McMeekin has been elected. Zabia for first time out. Jawed has done respectably well.
And for candidate Joed, what can she take from something like this? Her first time running. She must be very proud of herself.
Was it Zobia?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I met with her actually. A number of people approached me and wanted to pick my brain. I told them that my brain was pretty well picked over, but I did have coffee with her, and she seemed very, very bright and interested. And she's very well qualified. She's at McMaster University.
That's right. Yeah.
Has a PhD and deals with water issues and water safety and so on. So she's got a good resume, and if she's interested, just hang in there.
And did you send them your tab for how much you charge per hour to pick your brain?
No.
Just a coffee.
No, I even bought the coffee.
Oh, big spender here, big spender. Matt Francis, Linda Lacasic, Krista Boyer round out your top three there in Ward 5. Jackson, Sly, and Padu in Ward 6. Yeah, and again, I have to say, Larry, I'm quite surprised at this point. Here we are, a few minutes after 11 o'clock. City Hall is very quiet, except for a lot of the local media and the producers.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be some good parties going on somewhere.
Maybe we'll get an invite. I wonder.
Well, I have received an invite to one of the mayoralty candidates.
Can I just tag along?
We
Can
will
we crash?
go. We will go if we get a. If we get a declaration at any time.
And we're hoping for that a little sooner than later, but it's nice to know that I have plans after this tonight. And here's my date. Wonderful stuff.
There we go.
Jeff Beattie, Ward 10.
I'll bet you there's partying going on in Winona tonight, that's for sure. Not so much on Maria Street, which is just around the corner from where I live.
And of course,
here we go, Ward 11, still not...
you can see the mayoral race is gone up a little bit more here in Andrea's favor as well. It just quickly changed screens. If we can get that back to take a quick peek. Yeah, just going through the scroll here, folks. Alex Wilson, no doubt. Lots of partying right now in Dundas as Alex and his team continue. No update here in Ward 14. Don Ross, listen, you mentioned it earlier. You worked alongside Donnie.
Here we go, 57,112 versus 55,497. What's the percentage there, control room, so that we can do a comparison to the last one?
Well, we'll see if our
crack team.
Our crack team behind the scenes can get us that number, but
again, it's by my simple calculation, it's not 2,000 votes, but about 1,500 votes.
Nothing has changed, by the way, in percentage points at this point, Larry.
So 47 for
41.7 for Andrea, 40.5 for Keenan as we continue to move on. Yeah. Just almost 2 hours into when the polls were finally released to us here in the city of Hamilton.
Indeed, and there's Bob Bertin. I mean, he's been trailing throughout. I spoke to some of the team that was working for Bob, who told me last night that he's pretty serene about things and fairly calm, expecting things to have gone this way. So I congratulate Bob for wanting to step up again.
Yeah, and let's hope Bob now can hopefully sit back, reflect, and realize all the good that he did for this community on so many levels through so many decades. And yeah, you know what? There were times maybe that he wishes he might have back, but you know what? I think at some point, Larry, we all kind of have those moments. But overall, Mr. Bettina, he wears his heart on his sleeve. I don't think you can fault him for that. You may not agree with all of his policies or decisions or how he did things, but he is, taking a word from Max Francis, a true Hamiltonian. Pattison rounding things out there. And Bob's numbers have gone up slightly, and of course so have Andrea's and Keenan's here, but again there seems to be that 2,000 vote separation right now between both Andrea and Keenan.
Yeah, and now people who are watching are sending me percentages, and it looks as if Andrea is at 41.7%. Keenan at 40.5%, Bob at 12.2%, and the others are in the 1% range. So there you go. And of course, we can see as these votes come in whether that percentage changes or not. And it looks as if it's remaining steady. And so what that means is even if there are votes uncounted, they're likely to break in the same manner and in the same way that the ones that have broken thus far. So again, I wouldn't be, if I were Andrea, uncorking the champagne just yet, but it's looking pretty good for her.
It's on ice, that's for sure at this point. Joining us now, coming over to the desk, is Tara Crownally as we take a quick look at Keenan Loomis headquarters right now. All kind of sitting in the dark right now, hopefully hoping that something will come their way. Very quickly, before we get into some general conversation here, Tara, Ward 10, you are now going to be having Ward 13, you are going to be having a new councillor in Alex Wilson. As a business owner out there, you saw the signs, you saw the hype. Is this a surprise to you?
Well, I mean, in the past, Arlene has always had so many other candidates to go against. And so here it was very clear, Alex versus Arlene. And I mean, it could have split both ways. Arlene, especially on social media and things, she's been pushing about, I'm not for any political party. I have experience. I'm not tied to anyone. And so you could see that in that last few breaths of the campaign that she saw that the gap was closing. I think Alex does bring with him, with them, much experience in a different way, and I think especially in the Dundas community, we saw things happening with Coots Paradise. We had things going on, and we've seen this not just with Arlene, but with other incumbents as well. This time, this is a change election, quite clearly.
It certainly is. Before we go back to the municipal, you were doing reporting on the school boards. Any surprises there?
Well, I was surprised with the numbers of some of the candidates that shall not be named, because why give them extra credence? But it was a close one in a few instances, and it makes you think about what people are actually thinking.
So who were some of the people that won?
We had. Now I don't even have my notes, and it's past
okay.
11, Larry.
Right,
but
and she's got a young kid at home. She's ready for bed.
5.5 years.
We all are.
No, Jessica and I really we ran through that list of the 15 wards. Both for the Catholic School Board and for the public, and I think that you'll see some fresh faces on there, and I'm still holding out hope for Todd White. I've been waiting to see. He's 5 and 10 for the public board. That one is close, but I personally I'd like to see the comeback story there.
And I didn't hear you guys talking. Did Pat Daly, did he win his seat back?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Now, remember, he has won how many times over?
Yep.
But I think it was just about 1,000 votes between him and the closest candidate this time around.
And then, of course, there was the big talk between Becky Buck and Ahone Mendy. And I hope I got that right. I apologize if I didn't.
And
who won there?
Becky Buck seems to have pulled through again. Now, remember, in the last race, she ended up with 61% of the vote. Yeah. So, and she's very good with the parents in that ward. So she had the backing. I do wish Ahona the best, and I think that there are many great things for her to come. She's young, she's vibrant, and she needs to have that voice because she's representing a lot of people that didn't feel like they had a voice. So I hope that we do see more of her.
We look at this council that we are starting to slowly formulate here. We are
slowly being the operative word.
Very
right,
much
Mike?
so. Yeah, you might have to wake me up here. I need my caffeine
my
shot. We're going to see a lot of diversity on this council, which I think is one thing that many Hamiltonians will be happy to see. I don't know, both of you, your thoughts on the diversity and how it's going to change to that aspect.
I think, if I can go, I think diversity is good. I would like to see diversity in thought as well. And I'm seeing a council where, the philosophy and the thought is zeroing in on just one side of the political spectrum. And that's not necessarily good as far as I'm concerned. But we will wait and see how things develop.
Well, I don't know, Larry, if it's really zeroing in on one aspect of the spectrum or if it's just that those incumbents, number one, needed to move on. And number two,
no, I'm not saying. And believe me, I'm not suggesting that the people have made a mistake. Voters are always right. But when I look at what people stand for who have been elected, I see a concentration of potential like-minded people who will advance policies on just one side of the political spectrum.
Well, we've seen Hamilton is in a very
wrong.
difficult place right now, and so those that are voting and those that stood to make a change, I mean, those are the ones that are being heard.
Yeah, there's no question about that, and they've been successful in delivering their message, but it doesn't deny the fact that the reality of the horseshoe is going to present a very different attitude.
Larry,
around,
do you have your bunker ready?
No. In fact, I'm looking forward to how these folks do. I can tell you this, in terms of the mayoralty, and it looks as if Andrea is maintaining her lead, and if she wins, or even if Keenan wins, and this was just suggested by somebody who's watching the program, that really they need to bring a different team to their mayoralty, regardless of who it is, than the one that's been running their campaign. Because it needs to be a more collaborative team that reaches out to the various parts of the elected councillors as well. And I think that's an interesting point that whoever comes out winner over the next few hours is going to have to reflect very hard on the kind of administrative team they want to bring to their office.
Yeah. Well, I think if anything, regardless of who wins tonight, it wasn't a very decisive vote. Neither has run away with this. And just like you say, they perhaps represent two very different sides of a coin.
Yeah, no, it's a very close election, and it was predicted to be so, fairly close, and I think the final numbers will demonstrate that as well. But whoever wins, whether it's by one vote or 10,000 votes, will have the same credibility and mandate to be mayor of the city, with the proviso that they establish a team around them that is going to reach out to different thoughts and give some nod to the message being sent by the candidate that didn't win but gathered a lot of votes as well.
Just a reminder to our viewers out there, we will be going off air at 11:30. However, we will be staying with all the numbers. Our crack team back at the Cable 14 studios will keep updating our graphics, and we look at this lead that Andrea has here. Again, that slim margin to the guests here at the table. Perhaps that 2,000, that could also come down to that name recognition. If this was just between Keenan and Bob, it might, we see where Bob is coming in third. So name recognition potentially, seeing how the numbers finish out, folks, plays a role in this as well at this point.
So let me tell you a quick story about that if we've got some time. Just this afternoon. And
we're here till 9 a.m., Larry. We've got lots of time.
And I've got a sign of one of the mayoralty candidates on my lawn. And so my neighbor was going out. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to go vote." I said, "Oh, have you decided?" As I'm pointing at my sign, "Have you decided who to vote for?" He said, He said this one, I don't know the other person. So name recognition is what he was going on. And I think people who voted in the early votes, the advance polls, might have been driven by the need to vote for this person. People who lag and maybe don't vote right away are maybe motivated by name recognition more than the others.
Especially at that level, at the head table, if you will. Yet you look at Maria, Councillor Farr, and Arlene Vanderbrink, name recognition did not play into that one.
No,
so
in
fascinating.
fact,
It worked against them,
Yeah.
only because they served on a council that had quite a few scandals and mishaps over the past 4 years, and they did not answer appropriately to those issues
Well, but-
according to the electorate.
yeah, but so did
And it wasn't their
so did
fault,
Maureen Wilson, so
necessarily.
did Brad Clark, so did Narinder Nan.
Well, no,
and it
and
looks as
those
if,
and those particular incumbents, I think, held on because they did address things differently.
Oh, okay. Well,
well,
you know that leaves a huge opportunity for debate there, but
And we only have 17 more hours to fill, Larry. We can do this.
yeah, this is not the opinionators, you know, Miss.
No, it's
Madam Opinionator.
It's not. It's QCC.
It's QCC now.
There you
Larry.
go.
Oh, what's it called?
QCC.
Questions, complaints, and concerns.
There you go.
Is that
Because
the new
we've
name
got a
of the
lot
show?
of them, yeah.
Oh, neat. I like that.
You should watch.
You're going to have lots of people with questions, concerns, and complaints.
Absolutely.
No doubt. And this council will be no doubt. You'll be talking about, Tara, a lot of these new councillors who are going to have complaints, who are going to have concerns because maybe they weren't able to follow through, whatever the case might be, on what they were saying during their campaign.
I mean, you know, complaints are part of the territory,
Yeah.
and if you don't want complaints, you shouldn't have put your name on a ballot for sure.
No, but I do see in a lot of these ward races how the two top candidates come from very different mindsets, and some were closer than others. So that it is very interesting, just like how the mayor's race, you know, we see Loomis versus Horvath, Bob Bertina. I don't know what happened there, but
In regards
it'll be
to
a
Bob
wild
Bertina?
ride. Yeah, just how you know, initially when the three were up there, you know, you kind of imagine that you know, the hypothetical that Bob could go through the middle, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. The vote splitting.
Early on,
He'll
early
just
on.
come right through. Yeah.
Very early on.
Very early on.
And there we can see the difference in feels now at both campaign headquarters. It looks like the Loomis campaign's gone black, unless that's still the Horvath one. We did see a lot of people at the Horvath one doing their thing, and it's perhaps, we see some people clapping. Not sure what's going on there, but again, the Horvath's campaign is sitting in a pretty good position. Larry's getting a ton of updates here and some inside knowledge. Tara, as Larry is doing that, and there we see Keenan has made his way into campaign headquarters, so who knows if he'll be giving a speech at some point or not.
So, can I, as we're contemplating that, here's a message from someone who knows, who just said this: there's low voter turnout because there is no major issue like LRT to motivate voters to the polls, and there are 3 candidates getting significant votes, not just 2. In other words, Bob is pulling, yes, he's in third place, but he's pulling over 15,000 votes, and those are considerable, and if he hadn't been in the race, if it had only been 2, you know, the vote differential
I know, but we
might have
would
been
be
different.
looking at perhaps 2 progressives. So yeah, I don't know how that vote would have fallen.
Yeah, who knows how that vote might have fallen. Although, you know, Bob ran sort of a campaign on the right, but he's in the very same bucket as the other 2.
No,
in terms
it's
of
true,
his
but he was trying to
political philosophy.
differentiate himself from the
he tried
others,
To,
and I think
exactly.
that's
He tried
why
to be
he
different
was-
from
yeah.
the others,
You
right?
don't have to get in between you two and moderate. Come on now, one at a time, please. No, Tara, let's hear you. What are you saying there?
No, I mean, like, I appreciate what Bob Bertina has done and what he represents for Hamilton. I mean, he was for many years on the radio. He then became a councillor. He then became mayor, and then he left that, and he was a federal member. So he's done everything on his own terms, and I think he ran this campaign on his own terms. However, played out at the end.
I think it's also fair at this point. We can go over this left, right, and center, but I think it's an opportunity now to talk about our former Mayor Fred Eisenberger. Just a couple more days under his belt. Again, what he has brought to this community. His wins, some of his losses, how he handled things, Steady Freddy, Frugal Freddy, whatever you want to call him. At the end of the day, to the both of you, here's a gentleman again who gave his heart and soul to this city. Love him or hate him, agree or disagree.
Nobody hates Fred.
Nobody hates Fred.
Nobody hates Fred.
He gave it his all.
He did, and he left a legacy. I mean, Fred's legacy is twofold as far as I'm concerned. One is LRT, which would not have happened if he hadn't pushed it even when some people didn't want it. And number two, we have seen unprecedented growth in this resurgent city. And many of us planted seeds, but so did Fred, and he did some of the harvesting. So kudos to Fred Eisenberger for sure.
But man, if you could just get that stadium down by the water, eh?
Well, but we got to send you stadium.
Every mayoral has its hiccups.
I know, and that's my one thing that's the only thing I bug Fred about. As we're showing some highlights here of both Andrea and Keenan's campaign headquarters, you are definitely seeing a different type of vibe in both right now. Lots of smiles
Look at how
and
close
laughing.
Ward 14 is.
With Mike and Kojo as we continue that one.
Very close.
Again, going to go down to the last moment. We're going to be signing off in about 5-6 minutes or so here, folks. But please make sure you stick with Cable 14 right through till 9 a.m. tomorrow. We will be updating the numbers and, of course, finding out who will be leading this great city of ours. However, it is starting to lean a certain way.
But never say never until the very end.
Well, that's right. You know, until that last vote is counted, things could take another turn, depending on the poll, depending on the area.
How many polls are left? Do we have any?
Well, they're not giving us those results. Maybe they're in the big board there in terms of the polls that still come in.
My impression would be they're about 25.
And welcome.
And I totally made that up, so someone might.
Okay. Maybe somebody can whisper in our ears as to how many polls are still to come in. But I find the information that's being provided for us isn't as good as it should be. But there is. And
there you can see Andrea walking through. Sorry, Larry. Andrea walking through. So it's possible that her team might have some more information at this point than we do, but she looks awfully happy at this point.
I think we can safely say that we have our first female mayor in the city. I don't want to jinx anything, but it looks as if they're doing high fives in the office, or at least at the Spice Factory, to which we are going right after this broadcast. And congratulations to Andrea if that's the case. But let me say something as well about Keenan Loomis. Keenan, for someone who had absolutely no political experience, ran an excellent campaign and came within a hair's breadth of taking the mayoralty of this city. Made some mistakes, I think. All campaigns always do. But presented himself very well. He has a future in politics if he wants it.
But he's not a politician.
Well,
not yet.
The moment he signed the nomination papers, he became a politician.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to add a little light to this, and of course, a number of us know who Keenan is and the heart and soul and sweat that he put into this campaign.
70
and his
votes,
team.
less than 70 votes.
And there's Ward 14. Yeah, less than 70 votes right now. Ward 15, as we already alluded to. So Ward 14 is something that we're going to be keeping our eye on, and Andrea is making her way to the stage for what looks to be, and we can only assume at this point, is an acceptance speech. There you see Sandy Shaw standing up on stage. Maybe she's going to be the master of ceremonies and push things along there. Tara, just quickly before we have to wrap up here, as our first female mayor that we are now going to have in the illustrious history of the city of Hamilton, what do you think this means for politics and for young ladies being born, growing up in this city, and seeing this now as an opportunity?
Well, there could be no better woman to take on that role for the first time than Andrea Horwath. And I think that it's always an amazing thing whenever we see people of diversity or gender rise into positions of decision-making powers.
Andrea, I worked with Andrea, and part of the reason why I supported Andrea in this campaign is exactly that. I worked with her. She's smart, she's capable, and she's experienced, and she'll do a great job. Congratulations, Andrea.
Well, hello, Hamilton. Hello, Hamilton.
Andrea Horvath headquarters as she's making her way there.
I want to start. Do we have a sound? Can you guys hear me back there? There's no sound. Maybe it's this. Hang on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? No, we cannot hear. We cannot hear. Okay. Okay, I've got no mic, so we need everybody to be a little bit quiet so that hopefully folks can hear. I know how to belt out a speech at a hall, and so I'm hoping you can hear me. Bring it down, people. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who's in this room and all of the Hamiltonians around our city that got out to vote today. And I know that every single one of you here tonight, everyone who knocked on a door, everyone who got out the vote, we all believe in the same thing. We believe in Hamilton. We believe in our city. Hamilton all the way. There's just no doubt. Everybody knows that Hamilton is my pride, my inspiration, and has been for my entire life. And I could not have asked for a better hometown than this city that we all love. Our city is the best place to live. It's the best place to live. It's the best place to learn. It's the best place to raise a family. Our city is the best place to start a business, to thrive, and to grow, and to make sure that your dreams come true. There are so many people that poured out their hearts and souls during this election, including me. But more importantly, I am thrilled and I am humbled by the gratitude that I have for all of you. I really appreciate everything that everyone has done during this campaign. I'm just filled to the brim with gratitude. I want to start by thanking Keenan Loomis. I want to thank Keenan Loomis and Bob Bertina and all of the mayoral candidates in this campaign. There is no doubt that we do not agree on everything, but we all love this city. We all love this city. The candidates brought great ideas to this race. They brought great ideas, and I know that they will, every single one of the mayoral candidates will keep playing a very important role in our city going forward. They will make sure that Hamilton is a city that is prosperous for everyone. Thank you. I also want to thank outgoing Mayor Fred Eisenberger. I want to thank Fred. We all know that he has given years and years to the service of this city. He actually has a heart of service, and he has given that heart to the city of Hamilton for a number of years. As mayor, I will be standing on Fred's shoulders and the shoulders of every single mayor that came before him. I want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to vote today. It is so important. You showed how much you care about our city. You showed how much you cared about your neighborhoods. You showed how much you love Hamilton. I want to say thank you to all of the volunteers. Whether you knocked on doors, whether you put up signs, whether you made sandwiches for the zone houses that kept our volunteers going all day long today. You made a huge difference in this campaign, and everything you did mattered. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. And I want to thank every candidate. I want to thank every candidate and the person who just gave me the water. Thanks to that. I want to thank every candidate that ran for council. We had a lot of people that ran. Everyone who ran for council, everyone who ran for school board. It was amazing to see how many people decided to put their name forward to try to make a difference for Hamiltonians. It is an amazing thing to celebrate, all of that participation from the candidates. So many people from so many walks of life signed up to serve our city. That is something we all need to be proud of. Are Hamiltonians not amazing? Yes, we are. We are amazing. I also want to give my heartfelt congratulations to all of the people who were elected to City Council today, the people who are going to be the next Hamilton City Council for the people of our city. The new council is smart, they're determined, and they are passionate. To you all, I say, bring your ideas, bring your passion, but most of all, bring your constituents' voices to the table. And let's actually fill that council table. Fill that council table with the concerns and hopes of everyone in the community that you represent. And let's work every day, each and every day, to address those concerns and turn those dreams into reality. You know, I decided to run for mayor of our city because, like you, I see Hamilton as an incredible place of great potential. Yes. And I know that together we can realize that potential. Hear, hear. But we also know that we're facing some challenges. People need rents and homes that they can afford. So let's start building the partnerships and governments bring them all together to make sure that we get building that housing. And we all need and we all want to make sure that the city that we love, that's beneath our feet, is going to grow in a safe way, a way that we can all be proud of. That is something that we know is coming, that growth, but we have a responsibility to make sure that that growth is safe growth, and it's growth that builds prosperity, that makes sure that people can still build a great life here. We can maintain our sewers and our underground infrastructure, that we can keep our roads safe for all road users, that we can make our streets safe for all people. That's some of the things that people have been talking to me about during this campaign, and these are things that we can achieve together. They are a priority for people. They are a priority for me. Yes. And as I said, every Hamiltonian deserves an opportunity to build a great life in our city. So let's make sure that there is more training for people to be able to do the great work that you can actually raise a family on. Let's make sure that there's more support for our amazing entrepreneurial people in this community. I've met so many young entrepreneurs over these last number of months. It is fantastic what they bring to us. Let's support those folks. Let's support those folks. and make sure that as we build a greater industrial or new age industrial, if you will, sector, as we bring new jobs, new green jobs to our city, that those jobs are jobs that you can raise a family on. That's something that we need to do here in Hamilton. And very importantly, Hamilton needs to be a place, in fact, Hamiltonians deserve to have a city where they know that they can trust what's happening at their city hall. There has been a lot of conversation about that during our campaign, and I am committed to making sure that we rebuild that trust, that we create that ability to communicate, to embrace each other's ideas, and to find a path forward that we all feel proud of and that actually reaches our potential, that ensures that the potential that we have is actually realized. We can do that, Hamiltonians. We can do that together. We can do that together. If I make one promise tonight, as I take the oath of office in a couple of weeks' time, it is that I will be transparent. I will make sure that City Hall is transparent and accountable. I know that's what people have been concerned about in the last number of years. We deserve to be able to have that kind of transparency and that kind of accountability, because guess what? It's not my City Hall, and it's not the council member's City Hall. It's your City Hall. This is your city. This is your city.
Happy birthday!
Oh my goodness, okay. I'm almost done. I have just a few last things to say. I actually, it's really important. It's really important to acknowledge and to put out there what I firmly believe, which is the people who got elected today and tonight, regardless of what order of government they're serving at, in terms of school board, the various boards, in terms of city council, in terms of myself as the mayor-elect. We're but servants. We are but servants of the people of this city. It is our job to make sure that all of our hopes and dreams are realized and that we build a beautiful city that we can all be proud of over the next number of years. And I commit to you that I will listen to you, I will hear you, and I will make room at the table for all of our voices to be able to create that beautiful city. So thank you for that. I value your opinions. I will open the door. I will welcome people in, and we will be able to build a table where everybody counts, everybody matters, and our city will thrive as a result. An open door, an open mind, and an open heart is what I'll bring to you as the mayor. So, this is an incredible celebration. Thank you all for sticking with it for the last couple of hours. I really appreciate it. I had an absolute blast on this campaign, and that's because of all of you. So thank you so much for that. But we know that this isn't the end. Yes, it was a goal, but it's not the end. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of great things for our city that we love. The goal, as you know, is a thriving Hamilton that works for everyone. Hamilton's best days are absolutely ahead of us, and our work starts right now. Thank you. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Mary officially declared Andrea Horvath mayor-elect of this great city of Hamilton, the first female to ever represent and sit at the head of the horseshoe. Some final thoughts before we zip out of here, Larry.
Well, we've made history tonight. After 170 years or so of male mayors, we have our first woman mayor who not only brings her experience and her passion and love for the city, but also finally it breaks that glass ceiling that women often have to deal with. And so I'm very, very excited about the prospect. She's got an interesting group around the table. She exhorted them to bring their ideas and their constituents' ideas to the table and work collaboratively. I hope that that is exactly what happens. And right now I'm going to go to the Spice Factory.
There you go. And maybe I'll be joining with you. We are going to see a new council. There have been some upsets as well. And if there's anything, we're upset that we got to leave you. But it's been a long night. So, Larry, thank you very much for this. Do appreciate you being here, my friend. This was a lot of fun.
All the best.
Okay, Hamilton, thank you very much for tuning in, supporting local cable television right here on Cable 14. Thank you, and good night.